But no, like I said right before we started recording, I'm excited for this episode, bro. So
yeah,
thank you for coming out and doing this. You're one of those guys that kind of just came out of the woodwork. Like, I don't know. Who do you know do you know anyone on the team or?
Well, I know people on the team, but I didn't know that they were on the team before I joined the gym.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause like, hey, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And then within 48 hours, everybody's like, that dude's a savage. you got to roll with him. You got to feel that bass. And you're one of those guys that brings an extensive background in wrestling, but still new to jiu-jitsu. And that's always a interesting problem for pure jiu-jitsu guys to try and solve.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're already seeing that on a nightly basis.
Yep.
Like you have guys here that have done jiu-jitsu a long time and you're still providing lots of problems to solve with that wrestler base.
Yep.
And so I love it. You know, like I always tell guys, if you don't have wrestling, you don't have jiu-jitsu. So we have to embrace it when we get new wrestlers in here that want to combine the arts, you know?
Yeah. I'm understanding that more and more. Didn't know what that meant when I first started rolling, but I get it now, right? I'm able to provide a good roll with some of these upper belts.
Yeah.
And it's great. So I'm having fun.
And the cool thing is like, even I'm not concerned about you trying to omoplata me yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you do have a base that feels almost unsweepable. So what it does is it forces the upper belts to really, really hone some of the fundamentals to make basic jiu-jitsu work.
Yep.
You know? So before we geek out on jiu-jitsu the whole time, how I like to do the show is just, give you the floor and introduce yourself, where you came from, what you're about, and then we'll just dive down all these rabbit holes on our own.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm pumped to be here too. The gym's been I don't know if you call it a gym. You call it a gym?
I call it a gym.
Yeah, gym.
Academy, dojo,
yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, whatever.
I'm not too concerned on titles around.
Yeah. Sounds good. It's a big part of my life now, right? It's one of the main communities that I just love to be at on a weekly basis, you know, multiple times a week. But so I'm from Marysville, Washington, born and raised, left for 10 years, post school, moved to Spokane, moved to Portland, moved back to Seattle, and then moved back up to Marysville around 2017. Was in industrial manufacturing. And then I started a company back in 2017 as a startup. We've been scaling it since then, and we have 25 people on the team now.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. So the whole entrepreneur route, the whole trying to make payroll route, and now the whole scaling route.
And I love that because that's going to be another thing that we can geek out on, because so many people that consume this show are looking for what's next.
Yep.
And you see it with like the Forged Ferocity guys, even if it starts small and it's a little idea,
Yep.
like growing it from the idea to where you are now, there's so many steps and so much wisdom that you derive from that process that I'm excited to like jump in on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
2017, like in hindsight, that sounds like a rough time to start a new entrepreneurial journey, huh?
For sure. Yeah. There's risk associated with it, but I would say I always bet on myself. Like I'm okay with betting on myself. So therefore, if it didn't work out, I knew that I was going to be able to go back into my career. I was going to be able to find something else. I always felt like I could achieve it. And we knew that there's a real need there. So the risk was worth it, right? Like I felt like it wasn't going to fail because of me. It might get failed because of timing. It might fail because of the technology wasn't there yet, but I was not going to be the factor that's going to let it fail.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that's a pretty powerful perspective to hold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could apply that to almost anything in life.
100%. Yeah, without a doubt. So in one way it was like, daunting, but another way it wasn't. It's just kind of part of the journey.
Yeah. And dude, I actually just saw a thing with a little reel by Alex Ramosi, and I'm sure you've consumed his stuff. And he said, if you're nervous going into any type of new endeavor, that's what nervousness means, is you're underprepared.
For sure.
Yep.
Yep.
And so it's like, if you're not underprepared for things, then you're not going to be the factor in which it fails on.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
100%.
interesting.
Yeah. So did that and then started scaling the business pretty heavily in about 2020, actually. So the great thing about quote unquote COVID was people couldn't go visit, their machines in the field. And we do a lot of stuff with connecting machines up like a Fitbit, if you will, for heavy machinery. And so it really accelerated our company. because now people weren't getting on airplanes to fly everywhere. So they had to get their machines connected to the internet so they could determine like, how are they being operated? How are they being used?
So your company does diagnostics on existing machinery that's already up and functioning in some capacity?
So we actually get design in at the time of manufacturing. So we work with, so we're a Fitbit for heavy machinery is the best way to put it, or like a Whoop, right? And we go on the machine at design and manufacturing. And then every time a machine is manufactured off the production line, we're part of that build. And so if you're a company that builds cranes, every time they build 5,000 cranes a year, we're on all those cranes. So there'll be 5,000 Elevates floating in the universe.
Okay.
We do this with everything that's outside a factory wall. So cranes, construction equipment, wakeboard boats. We have a bunch of wakeboard boats floating around Lake Stevens.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
fuck, man, my boat's in the shop right now.
It's a big issue. Yeah.
Getting a diagnostic done.
Yep.
And I had to drive it to 2 different facilities because the first one's like, your engine's throwing a bunch of codes, but we just don't understand what's going on.
Man, we are meeting with all the engine manufacturers in the wakeboard boat industry right now about our technology.
So that sounds like, and I'm assuming you are, if you're, I don't know if partnering is the right word, but if you're working with these other companies where you get to be part of the build, right there, that's a business transaction out of the gate. Like they're purchasing whatever components they need. And then I'm assuming there's some type of longevity or continuous membership or whatever.
There's a software subscription for the term of our software on the boat. So if that boat's going to be a 5-year contract with us, every year they pay us an annual licensing fee per boat.
Okay.
And partnering is a perfect word because we really do work with them, not just on this model year, but then we start planning on next model year. So just like your Netflix account or Whoop, right? Or your Whoop app, it's got better over time. So you pay for that subscription and it gets updated over time. Same thing with Elevate.
Okay.
Every month we're putting out software updates. So new features, bug fixes, you name it. So whatever they start with today, it's going to be better in 3 years.
So these, the way in which it monitors this equipment, is it something that's just like constant? There's some internet connection and it's always running diagnostics in the background? Or do you have to bring it in and hook it up every 2 months or whatever?
Nope, it's running nonstop. So we have cellular, Wi-Fi, satellite, depending on the device you put on. We have a huge partnership with Cummins. So we're a big partner with Cummins Engines, both a technology partner and a commercial partner. So we partner with them inside OEMs that build machines.
Okay.
And so we're monitoring the entire Cummins engine. We won't even throw a fault code. So it's interesting with Cummins is we will monitor all the data coming off their engine. And if an event occurs, we take the previous 15 seconds of data leading up to that event, we package it up, we send it up to Cummins. Cummins takes it, analyzes it against all of their service records, and they bring a recommendation back to the owner of that piece of equipment on what the fix is.
Okay.
So
are the fixes usually, or I guess this is so far out of my wheelhouse. I'm just like, I'm going to give you the most authentic questions that like you would get from just normal people that don't work in this industry at all. But do the corrections, can they come in the form of like a download? Like, hey, this engine's faulty here. Program this, send it back out. It downloads it and corrects the problem? Or is it almost just like it shows you the problem and then you have to figure out how to fix it?
100%. Over-the-air software updates are a massive piece.
Dang, dude.
So it's changing the game, not only to fix it, but now they're learning about their equipment and they can offer software updates for the next seasonal piece of equipment. So you buy a ski boat, the display technology you have on that boat, the hardware is not going to change much year to year, but the graphics do. So if the boat manufacturers say, hey, we're going to send you the new graphics for your display, they can schedule that in the off season and push those graphics updates. So you get the latest graphics on your display screen.
Okay.
Model year after model year.
Man, that's pretty fascinating.
It's awesome. And it's a great industry because these folks are competing with the largest manufacturers in the world. And most of our customers build 5,000 less machines per year. Some of them build 10 machines a year.
Yeah.
So these are, second generation companies that might build log stackers, but they compete against Caterpillar. And so like, how do you compete against the big guys? And so they can do that with companies like Elevate, where we can provide them software and technology and everything.
Oh, okay. So then they have almost a little technological edge.
Yep.
And that's where they can compete with the big guys.
Absolutely.
Are the big guys hopping in on this stuff too, or are they doing it all in-house?
They're doing it all in-house.
Okay.
Yep. And we will partner with them on technology partnerships, but they're building their own solutions in-house.
So were you, when you say you came from manufacturing, Did you ever work directly with Kirk? Is that how you guys knew each other?
So I worked with him through camps.
Okay, that's right.
Yep.
And did you just see like a deficit or a need for this within your previous career and decided to make that jump?
Yep. And so what was happening was a lot of the customers that I was working with was saying, hey, thanks for all this new technology you're putting on our machines, like these new display screens and sensors and joysticks. But can we get that information back to our office, right? Can we get back to not even our phones, our computer screens? And I was trying to find off the shelf technology that we could put in there, and nothing existed. And so we were trying to make like square peg, round hole, trying to make stuff work for like 2 years. And then eventually it's like, hey, we got to build this ourselves and just start this company and go after this nationwide. And most of the customers that we work with are on the East Coast or the Midwest, right? If you're going to build 1,000 forestry pieces of equipment, you're not building it in Seattle, Washington. You're building it in Wisconsin. You're building it.
Why is that?
Just like 8 hours of all component suppliers, like the pumps, motors, valves, an 8-hour drive from Cleveland, Ohio or Detroit. So it's an offshoot of automotive.
I see. Okay.
And so that's just where
the industry kind of set roots in.
Yep. And so that's where the majority of manufacturing is. So, but we have the technology team, the software team's based out of Seattle.
Yeah.
So we have just
all the tech nerds are out here.
Yeah.
And all the blue collar workers are
100%.
over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is great because we have a tremendous amount of a tech pool. We have a great team. We're on, like I would say, the leading edge, not the bleeding edge of technology, but we can bring that to the rest of the nation, and people that have a hard time, fielding an engineering team in Wisconsin, they can work with us in Seattle.
Yeah. When you realized the need for this and you said you had your tech team, like just, hey, we need this. There's a hole in this part of the industry. We need to fill it. Is that in your wheelhouse? Like, or did you have to hire guys to do all that?
We had to hire guys. And the way that we did about it is we found an engineering firm and we hired them. And we had our first few customers, and all the margin dollars that we made off of those customers basically went to this engineering firm with a little bit to pay the rest of our overhead.
Got it.
But we knew we could grow it. And then eventually we hired our own team internally and took that margin back to our company and then continued to grow it.
So like your own research and development guys?
Yep. Our own product guys, our own engineers. But at the beginning, we're just using a team of 5 engineers from Seattle, and they're a great group that we kind of knew from the networking, I guess. And we'd set them on for 3 months. We do a 3-month project, and then it was successful. We do another 3-month project. And then eventually we said, we have enough 3-month projects coming up on our product that we can probably start to hire our own team.
Do you feel there's any benefit one way or the other working with a contracted person doing the job or someone that's like invested on the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it depends on probably who the contractor is. Ours came from a really good recommendation, and 2 of their team members are actually on our team now. So that contractor.
Oh, you poached them?
No, no. The owner of that company that we're introduced to, they said, "Listen, I'm going to give you this team. If any of them want to leave us and join your team, we want what's best for our employees." Right?
That's pretty rad.
It's awesome. This guy's phenomenal, and so 2 of them actually ended up joining our team, and they've been on our team now for 6 years, 7 years, from the time we ended the contract with them. And we still worked with them on and off throughout the years when we need to expand our team for short durations of time.
Yep.
We'll use that contracting team. But so that case, it worked out really well for us. It's the only thing I know is we had this really trusted partner of ours that was invested in us being successful, and not only invested, they didn't want us to change. They always knew we were going to probably build their own engineering team. And they're like, hey, it's a free market. We want what's best for our employees. If you want to be able to offer them a position and they take it, then we're all for it, right? We'll create a transition plan.
Well, and I would assume if you're partnered with their engineers, their final product is of better quality as a result, right?
100%.
So they technically are under your guys' banner or under their banner.
Yep.
Everybody's still winning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's great. And like I said, one of their chief architects, he's still one of my best friends today, lives in Utah now. You create these people that you're doing business with and you're spending so much time together and you're passionate about it. You do become partners, right?
Of course.
Yeah. And so they end up just being lifelong friends.
Well, and you've already just listening to even the verbiage you use, They're not your employees.
No, I hate
they're
that
your
word.
team.
Yeah.
You know,
I cannot stand the word employee.
And dude, that little stuff, if you make people feel like they're valued, like I learned that lesson in the military, you make people feel valued, they'll literally spill their blood for you.
Yeah.
But as soon as you make them feel like an employee, and you better refer to me as this, you know, all those little things matter. 100%. And that's why, I mean, out here, and I don't have a team of employees, but I certainly have a team of people that make this place operate in the capacity in which it operates, right?
Yep.
I can't even imagine asking them to refer to me as a certain title or any of that kind of stuff.
Can't even think about it. And the thing is, every single team member we have, they provide a higher value than I can provide to the company, right? There's something that they're the best at, or multiple things they're the best at. And so not only do I make them feel valuable, they are extremely valuable, right? They could be our engineering manager, our VP of engineering, our UX engineer, our VP of sales, our marketing coordinator, whomever it is. They provide way more value than I can in their role. And I think they all believe that, and they fully feel that with the rest of our team. So when we have really hard discussions, you and I could disagree about something, about a direction of the product or the company or a customer, and we can have a very passionate discussion about this. At the end of the day, a decision needs to be made, either collectively of a group or one of the leaders has to make a decision to move forward. Then everyone gets behind it. There's no sabotage in it. And because everybody values each other and everybody understands that the place we're coming from is to make the company better, ultimately make our customers better, then they can get behind it. And so now that's like a flywheel, because now we're always challenging each other, but then we're also always getting behind each other once the decision's made.
What a novel concept.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I wonder why that is lost in so many organizations, especially government organizations. And it's because like you said, if you come to a conclusion and say, hey, this is what I think we need to do moving forward, a lot of people in many industries would think that's out of spite or jealousy, or he's not using my idea because he doesn't like me, all that weird stuff, right? Yep. You just don't even allow that stuff to have a seat at the table. It's like everybody knows.
Yeah. And no one allows it, right? So the great thing is we like to bring on the team A players or rising stars, right? We don't want B players, or we don't want people that don't want to change the world, change the industry, the world that we're in. So they get weeded out, and they can get weeded out from different team members. We can say, hey, Adam, I don't think so-and-so is cutting it here. I can say, hey, Hugh, I don't know if this person's cutting it, or Jeb, or whoever the team members are. And we'll really start to assess it, right? And we'll really look at it and we'll find out, is it wrong person on the bus or right person on the bus in the wrong seat, right?
Yeah.
And we're really focused on that, because it does create that energy, and it creates that flywheel to make us better. And again, we can have different opinions, but once the decision's made, we all have to be behind it to make it successful.
Yeah. You know, you hear Jocko say, no bad teams, only bad leaders.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that's very true in a lot of cases. Because,
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's outliers where this person is just a negative Nancy and brings some people are cancers, right?
Yep.
And you can do anything. You can read every extreme ownership book there is.
Yeah.
And that person's still going to bring negativity in.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, I think it's using emotional intelligence to be able to communicate with people.
Yeah, communicate with people and understand how they communicate, right? So like I have one of the team members on our team, he's very high octane. He's going 90 million miles per hour. He likes to think very quickly, likes to talk through stuff. We have one of his team members that he likes to hear all the information, process it, and come back in a day.
Yeah.
Imagine those two in a critical meeting together. It does not, right? But
well, I mean, I can imagine that, because at the end of the day, you're talking about products, but really this is just a relationship.
Yep.
You know, and I think about like me and my wife, she's a processor and I'm someone that wants answers right now.
Yep.
And that alone can cause conflicts.
Yep.
Because sometimes people want to sit on something and I'm like, no, I feel like I want a conclusion right now.
Yep.
And again, that goes down to just knowing the people on your team and how they function, right?
Yeah. And I think that's also a big part of being an entrepreneur. You want to make a decision because you feel like worst case scenario, if it's the wrong decision, we'll be able to course correct.
Yeah.
Right. Like where a lot of people don't have that. in their DNA. So they could be, especially if you're process oriented, you come from engineering side versus sales side, whatever the case is, you're going to think about things a little bit differently.
Do you ever allow, and I know we're kind of going off different tangents here, but I like this because, how do I phrase this? Some people I know that are very, very successful. They have like very high functioning businesses. They kind of have to take the humanity out of the person, right? Mm-hmm. If this person isn't cutting the mustard over here, we're going to have to let them go. And I know they have 3 kids and a new house they just bought, but that's not my problem. That's their problem. That's something for me as a leader. I don't have a bunch of employees, right? But I've always struggled. I can admit it, even in my military days, like I struggled with removing the humanity out of the equation because that's part of the equation, right? But it can't be part of the equation at the highest levels of entrepreneurship.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
So I struggle with that as well.
I think it's indicative of being a caring person, right?
Yeah, I struggle with that. We've done this more times than I would have liked to over the course of our business, but we don't do it fast, right? So a little bit that's unique with engineering in Seattle, in the Seattle ecosystem, is often engineers, software developers, whatever the case is, they'll want to test out a company. So they might come on for like 2 months to see if you're the right culture fit, especially being a startup in the Seattle ecosystem, right? And then we can test them out. So actually on the engineering side, it's really kind of common course to say, hey, this isn't really working out. I think you'd be a better fit somewhere else. It doesn't really match up for our company. And there's no real feelings hurt. It's harder when you have someone on your team for 2, 3, 4 years and the company's growing and they haven't grown with the company.
I see.
And so now you're like, oh man, this person's been with us. They've been through it, but really either they want to do something a lot larger. They want to work for a really big organization because they've kind of done their small company thing and now they want to work somewhere big, or they want to stay in that small company thing as you're starting to scale and they're not that great fit. That's the really hard conversations. And we don't take it lightly, but at the same token, if we don't make that change, we try to do it in the best way possible, right? If you don't make the change, then you're ultimately impacting everybody else on the team.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not just us. It's really, we say the company, but it's really, who's the company? It's all the team members. So if we have someone that's not stepping up to the next level, it's only hurting everybody else. And it's almost like disrespecting everyone else by keeping a bad team member on. But then you have to figure out, okay, what's the best way, so
for everybody to move on.
Everyone to move on. So you try to give enough time and you try to even, see if there's people you can connect them to or vice versa in the whole deal.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed is when you try and communicate something from a place of kindness, when some harsh realities are what is needed, what you're kind of doing is you're dampening the truth.
Yep.
And that may feel a little better in the moment because you're not having that hard conversation, but that's never going to create the optimal outcome in the long run.
Yeah.
And something that I've really jumped in on I would say even the last year or two, is the concept of the truth sets you free.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds cliche and we've heard that our whole lives, but I've learned to kind of implement that where it's like, I'd rather say something to you right now that's not going to feel good. It might even ruffle your feathers a little bit. But if that person knows that it's coming from a place of love and a place of good, that initial defensive reaction may still occur, but everybody's better off in the long run. Yeah,
it's the intent, right?
And that's something that was hard for me to learn as a leader. And I always tell people, like, I talk about leadership a lot. The biggest teams that I ran in any kind of a tactical setting was like a 16-man team, right?
Yeah.
And that was in my contractor days. As a ranger, I was only a team leader, so I had a very small team. But I think a lot of leadership principles that you apply on a microcosm can be applied on a macrocosm.
Yes.
You learn how to be a leader dealing with 1, 2, 3, 10 people.
Yep.
Not much changes as it scales. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, even your team. So the team that you're leading is actually probably the same amount, right? So there is that concept that a team that you're leading is like 8 to 12 people.
Yeah.
And then they have their teams underneath them and their teams underneath them. And so, that makes a lot of sense, right? When you look at these CEOs, well, CEOs only have maybe 8 to 10 people that report to them, right? They're going to have like, human resource, and they have their CTO and their vice president of sales and their operations officer and their compliance. And then they're getting the report ups from them. And so they're really leading on that group, and they're expecting that group to lead other groups.
I see.
Yeah. So at a certain level, you'll scale it out, but if you're running a manufacturing facility, you might have 50 people.
Yeah.
And even then you have shift leaders, and you have department leads, and you have engineering leads and everything.
Is your team mostly located here in Seattle, or do you have people all over the place?
Yeah, they're all over. We have about 10 to 12 in the greater Seattle area. We have 2 down in Oregon. We have 1 in Dallas, 1 in Austin, a few in Tulsa, and another one in Bend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever find, I mean, the remote thing is the way of the world now.
Yep.
So, but I've always said there's also something different about sharing space and looking at people in their eyes and talking to them man to man. Do you find any issues with the way the world's going with that?
Yeah. So we got rid of our building during, quote unquote COVID. It was downtown Seattle above.
I love that my last 3 guests will always put quotations around COVID.
So one of the blessings of moving back up to Snohomish County from Seattle was I was up here when that happened.
Oh, okay.
2 completely different environments, right?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So, so we gave our office away. But then our team has been growing pretty rapidly over the last year. So now we're looking to get another office in Fremont, because we do think to come in a few days a week, at least on the project and engineering side, would be really good. On the sales side, we're typically with each other once or twice a month, because we're at conferences together, we're at trade shows, we're at customer calls. So a lot of us do get brought together. Then we bring everyone together once to twice per year. And then we do other group meetings throughout the year to try to bring people together.
When you bring people together, is it always a work-related conference, or do you ever partake in that, let's go out in the woods and freeze together as a team?
Yeah, both. I would say we don't have a lot of people on our team wanting to freeze together, but they want to golf, right? They want to top golf. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, well, I'll put this out there to your team if they're listening. If they want to go out into the South Fork of the Stillaguamish River for a weekend and get really cold and hungry and huddle around a fire and see what comes from that, we could host that.
Yeah, we have a few guys for sure, and we have a few guys that are really big into the mountains and camping and hiking and snowboarding and stuff, and they would take you up on that. And
what's funny is on one hand that sounds like, it's kind of, throwing that out there tongue in cheek, but Glover runs his resilience rendezvous where you get a group of people together and purposefully do a bunch of very difficult tasks for 72 hours together. And it bonds people in a way that you don't bond without doing that stuff.
Yeah, it'd be incredible.
Yeah. I think it'd be kind of cool that's something we've talked about for a long time. Me and Tobin specifically, because he's my partner on that property, is what could we do out there? Yeah. And so far he's run his tactical courses, and then we do our guns and geese weekends. But most of that's still rooted around some type of actual training as opposed to just team building and enduring.
That's a great idea. Yeah. A really good idea, because there's not a lot of great team building sites in the Pacific Northwest.
When I went through the warrant officer course, and this is going to sound strange to people, but they would put us through these team building exercises where it would be all right, you have these 3 crates that are full of equipment. Mm-hmm. You have 6 sections of rope that are each 7, and I'm just making it up on the spot, but this is just an example, right? Several sections of rope that are this long. Yeah. You have 6 guys, 5 jugs of water that are in those big cans that go on the back of Jeeps, those type of big water cans. Yeah. And you have to get from point A to point B, and you also have to get over 3 walls and then get all of this equipment on the roof of that building, not using the stairs, something like that, right? Yeah. And the way in which the military has engineered these, there's really only a couple ways to physically make this work. So you're it's like you're brainstorming with a team, but solving a puzzle at the same time. And that kind of stuff is cool. Yeah. Because you see, there's people that as soon as something doesn't work, oh, what the fuck, dude? Yeah. Dude, get up, man. I need you to. And it's bro, listen, everybody calm down. Yep. And then you'll usually have that person step up and start kind of directing and calming people down. Yeah. Great exercises in leadership.
Yeah, that's a great idea. They do little stuff like that at some conferences, but they're really basic. Right? They're really, really basic things, but to do it for a big team, because, we do the golfing deal, but as a team's grown, not everyone golfs.
Yeah.
So now, okay, we can't really do golfing as much anymore because only maybe a third of the team golfs. At the beginning, we all golfed.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit easier. So for us, like the easy thing is, bring everyone up, go to dinners, go stuff like that. But this would be, super interesting.
To this day, I go back and forth on golf.
Yeah. Well,
because my grandpa was an avid golfer. So when I was a kid, he would take me all the time.
Yep.
And just as a default to that, I got okay.
Yeah.
I never was great, but I was okay.
Yeah.
And to this day, every once in a while, go shoot a hole a round of golf. It just feels like almost nostalgic.
Yep.
But then the other side of it is it's like almost it feels like a full day commitment.
Full day. It's a full day. And the other thing too is if I was going to relate it to jiu-jitsu, because I'm not going to golf much this year because now I'm into jiu-jitsu, because
hell yeah.
You can be a weekend warrior. You can be like a pedestrian golfer.
Yep.
And you're not going to care what you shoot, and you're just going to go out there and you're going to like to do it and whatever. Or you're going to want to get better throughout the year. In the Pacific Northwest, that's really like June through maybe September.
Yeah.
Right? To do that, you have to golf at least once, maybe twice a week. You have to go to the driving range once or twice a week. You have to work in your short game. Otherwise, your score is not going to come down. So it'd just be like jiu-jitsu. You could come in once or twice a week and be pedestrian and go through it and have fun and enjoy it, which is awesome for a lot of people. Or are you going to be the person that's going to go 3-4 days a week, really work on it, understand how to get better and see how you are over a course of time. And there's two different types of golfers. There's the weekend warrior and then there's the one that wants to get better. And in my mind, I always like to try to get better every year and see where my score goes down.
Yeah.
And so I can't do that. I'm not going to like going out there and golfing, knowing that I can get better, but then not want to prioritize the time to get better.
Well, you said there's two types of golfers. I think that's probably just two types of people in general, because that same approach, I guarantee you, that's the same approach you take with your business.
For sure.
Right? Can you start a business and be like, hey, let's just kind of wing it and see what happens? Or can you have every aspect of it calculated, dialed in, and setting a trajectory that makes you happy to see where the company's going? That's golf. That's jiu-jitsu. That's everything.
Yeah. And what are your weak spots? What do you need to work on? What are your strong spots? Right? What do you say no to? What do you say yes to?
I'm similar in the way that I struggle dabbling in things.
Yeah. Same here.
I would say I dabble in fishing.
Yeah.
But I still bought that ridiculous boat.
Yeah.
All the equipment.
Yeah.
And I don't spend nearly as much time on the water as like some guys I'm friends with, I follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
And they might have like a little Aluma weld that's 12 feet and they're out there slaying kings.
All the time.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the weather is. Doesn't matter what the seas are. If you want to get good, you got to put the time in.
Yeah.
And there's some activities that I just don't feel like, and fishing's one of them. If you want to get good at fishing and you want to spend a lot of time on the water, say goodbye to all of your other hobbies. Everything else.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do I want? Where do I want to invest my time?
Yep.
And the only answer that I can come up with is we need to extend days to like 32 hours.
Yeah. Sleep less. Yeah. I think golf too, it's kind of interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. It almost hides, it almost makes you think you're a better athlete than you are with golf. Like I was thinking about this, like, so I used to golf and I used to think I was pretty athletic and I was a pretty good athlete because I could golf a good score throughout the year. But then you start jiu-jitsu and you realize you're not. Right. So I think there's a lot of people that golf that are like ex-athletes that think they're really good. So I go, well, maybe it's later on in life that I'll golf more.
I think jiu-jitsu shows every athlete on planet Earth that what you did didn't make you a very good athlete.
No.
And bro, I'm not trying to take away from any of the other athletic endeavors that people partake in, because if you're walking every day, that's a win, right? That's a huge win. But if you think what you've put time in other sports is going to carry you on the mats, that's just a fallacy.
But golf is highly skillful, right?
100%.
So if you think about it, it's very highly skillful, but then you realize, wow, I'm actually not a very in shape athlete. I could be a really good golfer. I could shoot 78, 79, but I could be really out of shape and not agree. But it almost plays with you a little bit because you relate it to a sport.
I see.
And the other thing that it relates to is like if I'm watching a baseball game, and I don't watch baseball games, but if I watched a baseball game and someone threw a 98 mile per hour fastball I can't relate to hitting that. There's no way.
Yeah.
But if Tiger hits a great drive, I go, oh, I've hit a drive like that once.
I see.
I can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
So for some reason, you kind of like visualize yourself as being more athletic than you are, just because you can shoot a better golf game. It just actually means you're becoming better. It's almost like pool. You're becoming more skillful.
Yeah.
But you're not a good athlete necessarily.
That's interesting. Well, like Potts, David Potts, you've trained with him quite a bit over the last couple months.
Yeah, for sure.
He showed up a super athlete.
Yeah.
Looking like Captain America.
Yeah.
Right. But you can see that
superhero.
You have to marry, and it doesn't matter if it's golf or it's jiu-jitsu or it's CrossFit. There's a merging of athleticism and then skill development that has to come together before the magic starts to happen.
Yeah.
And when he came over here as a super athlete, but with no jiu-jitsu, the magic wasn't happening at all.
Yeah.
And it was funny because there's people that are like, I had the conversation a couple of times. They're like, dude, that dude's jiu-jitsu is not as good as I thought it was or whatever. I was like, just because he's a super athlete doesn't mean he's going to have good jiu-jitsu. However, fast forward, it's been a year now.
Yeah.
You take that athletic base and that really intimate understanding of your body and your cardiovascular fitness and your range of mobility, all the things that he learned over there.
Yep.
Now tie that together with the base level knowledge of jiu-jitsu, and the magic is happening now.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating watching that happen in real time with people.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite white belts I roll with because he's a fellow white belt, but like you said, he's a freak, right? He's like big, strong, fast, mobile, and he has that skill that to me is pretty advanced white belt skill, and it's always a great roll because I leave it going, oh my gosh, man, I'm like exhausted.
I tell people, and that's the thing, if you're a good athlete, drag people into deep water.
Yeah.
Drown them.
Yeah.
The fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, like, on one hand, those other activities aren't gonna save you, and they're not gonna make your jiu-jitsu necessarily become better out of the gates. But those attributes will undoubtedly make your jiu-jitsu better in the long run.
Oh yeah.
And so if you show up, I have this talk with parents very, very often because I get kids from all backgrounds. Some kids are morbidly obese that literally need to be taught how their body moves. And then you have other kids that came from gymnastics. Yeah. They're elite athletes. Yep. They just need to download jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And all of them are motivating in different ways. I love working with people that are super athletic. I also love working with people that don't understand their body at all.
Yeah.
And, but it's a very different journey for them because
for
some
sure.
people, their first year on the mats is learning their body.
Yep.
Not really learning jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Whereas other people, we have some new guys that are just freaks. Yeah. And it's like, man, they've only been here a month.
Yeah.
And rolling with them is already challenging.
Yep. And you can tell where they're going to go.
And you know where they're going to go.
Yeah. And they start to put together and you go, wow, he's accelerating very quickly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Man, I can't think of his name right now, so I don't even want to describe him because I'm going to look like a dick. But there's a new guy he puts his hands on you and it's like, what is this?
Yes.
What would you, I want to dive into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But not quite yet.
Okay.
Because one of the coolest things about this podcast is sharing leadership, ideology, and relationship building and those type of things, which, you're 2017, you're 7 years in now to the business. You have a decent sized group or team that you've created. Do you have any blaring leadership lessons that you learned through this journey that would be beneficial to people to apply to really any level of leadership?
Yeah. So communication for sure. Right. So I've had to learn that over time because especially when you're small and there's 6 of you, it's very easy to communicate often. Right. As you're getting larger, even to a team of 20 or 25 people, you have to really focus on communication and making sure that you're not just always communicating to the same people all the time. And so I think communications, what you're communicating, how often you're communicating is really key. Not just yourself, but also the different departments. So for us, we have, let's just say sales, marketing, and engineering, right? And we're all doing our own things, going to the same goal, but we're not all in the same meetings, right? We're all doing different work paths. So one thing we do is we send out like a weekly status email that the leaders of those groups put the 3 to 5 things that group's done to move the business forward, some big wins they've had, and they send it out every night or every week over the weekend, Friday or Monday, doesn't matter. What's really nice about that is marketing and engineering get to hear what sales were doing. Sales gets to hear what engineering was doing. And it's a way to constantly be communicating with each other. And it doesn't take a lot of time, right? It's a pretty quick email to put together. So communication was one. 2 was making sure that you're always looking at, do I have not so much the right people in the right seat on the bus, but are the right people on the bus? Because as you grow, as the team changes, as dynamics change, you might have to make those hard decisions we talked about. And we definitely spent time, or we probably kept some people on maybe a year too long, right? Just because, like you said, you know them personally, you know what they've done in the past. You don't believe they've changed. The business has changed, right? And then you have to make those hard decisions. The other thing is, like, for us, it's 100% transparency. Like, so we are transparent probably to a fault with our whole team. We go through all the numbers. They know all the financials of the company. They know where we are all the time. And we allow them just to ask as many questions as they want, because we have nothing to hide. We want them to know what's going on. They're investing their time. They're making a bet on us for their families. We have growing family members. And then the third thing I'd say is, coming from manufacturing, our fourth thing is, this was really different for me. I'm glad that we did it. Was in manufacturing, healthcare is not the best. So we'd always do like high HSAs, pay for the first, team member, and then maybe their spouse. And then everyone after that, you had to pay like a couple $100 per person or something, right? When we started Elevate, we said, hey, we're going to give our team members world-class healthcare. So we're like Cadillac plans. We pay for all of their stuff and all of their dependents, right? So that we have like Amazon style healthcare for everybody. Why was a big for me is it's a big piece of our budget, right? But it's probably the number one thing across everybody that they value the highest, knowing that they have like the best healthcare. So when they're starting families, when they're, illnesses, whatever it is, like they have like the best plan out there. And it's a big thing that I didn't believe in before. I was also a young person. I didn't have dependents, all the stuff, right, in manufacturing. Well, now it's like, it's definitely something that it shocks you every time you look at the annual, plans, but it's so key. It's like the right thing to do to people. And I think as entrepreneurs and capitalists, we can make the right decisions for our team members, right? And then we can run the business responsibly to be able to continue to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess that would be indicative of letting your employees know that we care about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And their families.
And also, I mean, that's going to incentivize them. If you have the best healthcare plan in the industry, word's going to spread. People are going to know that. Yeah. Like that's going to start to minimize the grass is greener.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. And maybe not in your company, because it sounds like you've harbored a pretty good culture, but in the agencies that I worked for inside of law enforcement, the grass is greener is one of the most toxic things that consumes people 24/7.
Yeah.
It's like, I could go over here and get this. I could go over there and get that. This agency's paying this. This agency's healthcare is that. Yep. And it's like, if you're always looking elsewhere, that's really indicative of a problem at home. I would,
Absolutely. Right. And if someone wants to go someplace else, well, that's their journey. Right. So it's like, okay, and that's great. But when they're here with us, we want them to, we can't say that we care about them and their families and then not care about them and their families.
well, that's not how corporations and agencies work.
For sure.
Hey, Greg, family first.
Yeah. And then go, well, here you go. Here's this plan that, you have to pay all this money for your family, but thank you.
That's such a tongue-in-cheek thing that most agencies and corporations will say, we prioritize your family. We'll take care of you. And then when a family member gets sick, they're like, well, here's the deal. We're understaffed right now. And it's like,
but then also like
either don't say it,
but also they're connected to this thing, right?
Yeah.
So they're connected all the time. So like we don't drive them to do work, but that if an email comes at 6:30 at night, they're probably going to return it. So now you've encroached into their family life and that's not coming from us, but come from a customer.
Yeah.
It could come from another team member. It could come from whatever. So now you're saying family first, and then, oh, by the way, this 8 to 5 thing's really out the door now because you're constantly connected.
Yeah.
Even when you're not, even if you did a really good job at not being connected in the weekend, it's definitely you're looking at in the morning when you wake up, before you go to bed. Like, it's just happening.
No, and that's something that, I mean, regardless of your profession, this is something that everybody, including myself, should probably be more aware of. Is it's like, I need to disconnect from that thing.
Yeah.
Purposefully and intentionally.
So hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard because now it's like my friends and my banking and customers and like just personal interest, jiu-jitsu. Like I want to consume some jiu-jitsu instructional. It's all co-located on this one thing.
Yep.
And so you almost can't have one without the other.
It's nuts. And for me, the trigger on that thing is I check my email. Then if I check my email in the morning, then I automatically go check my social media.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have a motor pattern created now, right?
Well, how many times have you opened Instagram when you didn't think about opening Instagram?
Ridiculous.
And it's like, why am
I on here?
There's been times, this is embarrassing to even say, but the listeners know that I tell people I'm authentic. I tell people what I fucking think. There's been times when I'm on Instagram and I'm scrolling and I'm like, you're not consuming anything good right now.
Yeah.
Right. You like close this app and move on with your day. Close up or swipe it up and close it. And without even a second thought, I hit the app again and reopen it up.
I've done that.
And I'm like,
sit there. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
What are you doing right now?
Yeah.
But it's,
yeah.
Well, and someone said this to me, is like, there's teams of people smarter than you that are engineering every single aspect of those apps to convince your brain to do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, it's you versus 1,000 people.
Yeah.
It's like,
open it back up, Greg.
Very smart people.
Let's see what's going on.
Smart people either graduated from Stanford or dropped out to start another company. Right. And that's who you're going against. Like, okay, great. Awesome.
One thing that's very prevalent in, again, everything's a jiu-jitsu correlation with the gym culture is Skylar's a perfect example, right? Yeah. Young kid, stud, great energy, good attitude, very good jiu-jitsu. He's a blue belt coming up on purple soon. And he's told me, man, one day I want to have this. I want to have what you have. And it's like, fuck yes, you do. Yeah. And I'm going to support you.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't, like I always joke, as long as your jiu-jitsu academy is not right kitty corner across the intersection, I'm going to be in your corner. I want to see you win. And that's kind of the natural progression where I think one day people want to fly the coop and do their own thing. Yeah. Is it similar in your line of work? Like, do you see people like, hey, I'm Adam's right-hand man for so many years, but one day I'm going to make this happen on my own?
Yeah, for sure. My two senior folks on the sales team, both of them have told me what they want to do after Elevate.
Yeah.
Like they have a path there. They know what they want to do. And awesome. Like, let's help them get there. It might be in 2 years, might be in 5, might be in 10, whatever it is. But they have some entrepreneur targets and goals and stuff, and help and support them on how to get there now, because it helps us out. Now, those skill sets. And then when they're ready to do that, they'll do that.
I wonder where that backwards way of thinking kind of worked its way into these different agencies or corporations. Cause I know it's very prevalent in the military where they almost purposefully keep you down.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was leaving 2nd Ranger Battalion, my platoon sergeant called me into his office and he's like, Greg, just so you know, you're never going to be good at anything else. Being a ranger is your calling. You're a good ranger. You're a good team leader. The men here need you. And if you're going to abandon the platoon to go try and be something else, like, good luck with that. And it's like, bro, that's such a, and I get it, right? Him and I had a good relationship. I never had problems working for him, but they still are of the mindset. It's like, hey, you want to move on and do different things? You're probably going to fail. And that doesn't seem like a very healthy way to try and convince people to stay part of your team.
No, I wonder, I've thought about this too, because I wonder if, with social media coming out, with just connectivity of the internet and everything, like LinkedIn, like all those platforms where you're seeing people all the time. Like before, you go into your job and you would know your job, you know, maybe your customers and your partners, you know, maybe what your brother does and your brother-in-law does or whatever the case is, but that was kind of your world.
Yeah.
Now you're open up to all these things and you're seeing people move careers. You're seeing them start stuff, fail stuff, start stuff again. So it's not as foreign to you anymore, right? You're more aware of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really good because I remember when LinkedIn first was coming popular and I was back at the manufacturing company, I posted something on there and my boss said, "Hey, you shouldn't post that on there because we don't want our competitors to know what we're doing." And I'm like, if our competitors know what we did for our customers, then we're not good enough to keep that customer. That was back in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Well, now it's all LinkedIn. Everyone's posting, you know, stuff that they do for customers or in the companies or whatever. But that mentality was, oh, don't tell anyone. We have to keep it internal.
It's such a backwards way of thinking. And I'm assuming you consume some of Andy Frisella's stuff, right? And he said, like, he talks about that. He's like, if other supplement companies want to ask me a question about how to win, he goes, I tell them the truth.
Absolutely.
Because if you go out there and you win and you become better than first form, good for you.
Yeah. And the thing too is like, if you tell them how to win, for them to even get to the point of where you are today, you're already going to be 2 miles ahead.
Yeah.
It's not like they just flip a switch and go. So are you done improving yourself? So you're done improving. It's like they're
you should hang it up anyways.
Yeah, hang it up, right? I'm the same way because we have peers and competitors, and I share stuff with them all the time. And people sometimes say, we shouldn't, you know, tell them this. Are you afraid? I'm like, well, no, because our team, our customers, and whatever we do today, we're going to do it different in 6 months. It's going to be better. So I don't care. It's rising tides raise all ships. Like, great, make them better, makes us better.
Yeah, and I think that's, and I mean, I guess you would have a better read on the temperature than I would, being in a manufacturing company. But one thing that I see in sales, if I see a company try and make a sale by standing on the shoulders of another company or saying something bad about them, I'm out. Yep. You know, I talked about it on the show a couple episodes ago because Element, who's a sponsor of ours, I came across, and I think it was like, I forget the name.
Oh, I've seen it.
ATH or something. Yeah. Some type of electrolyte company. And their ads that they're paying for is just talking a bunch of shit on how terrible Element is. I know. And I remember thinking, like, and it's not just because I like Element or I have a partnership with them. I mean, maybe it plays into it a little bit. I think Rob Wolf's a cool guy, like whatever, right? But take all that, put on the back burner. You're bringing a new product to market and you're going to trash Element. Yeah. Who in their marketing team thinks that would be a smart thing to motivate people to want to try your product? And right there, I'm out. And it's funny because the same thing happened today. I was scrolling Instagram again, and it's a new barefoot shoe company, right? And they start to talk about how they have a wider base for toes to like splay out and have a more natural movement patterns with your feet. Yeah. And then the next thing they say, and they're so much better than Nobles because Nobles this or that. And then again, I'm out now. Yeah. I was intrigued too. I was like, oh, look at these new shoes. Kind of cool looking. Yeah. Seem to be geared towards athletes. Yep. And then they talk shit on Noble. I'm out, bro. Yep. Without a doubt. Because I like Noble. Yeah. Yeah. We have the same thing. So we do not keep you'll see products that they'll have a chart of every feature we have and every feature a competitor doesn't have. We don't have that chart, and customers will ask us who are your competitors, and we tell them, right? So these are, we consider our top 5, and they go, what makes us different? I go, honestly, at the end of the day, the technology is probably pretty similar. I go, you're probably going to find little things here and there, but you're investing in the partnership, right? You got to determine, do you like working with us and our team? Because we're going to be married together for the next 5 years. Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. The tech stuff, there are people doing a lot more advanced stuff than what our company does. And you can figure that out, right? They could play catch up and you could play feature versus feature, but it's like, do you like working with this company? Because they're essentially going to be part of your company for the next 5 years. Yeah. And they'll be part of your customers. And so that's very much how we approach everything. And dude, what you're going to find with that is inevitably you are actually going to have better customers. Yeah. You're going to have better relationships because that's going to, when you tell people that, it motivates people that are of a like mind. Yep. Absolutely. And it's funny how you can talk to anybody from any industry and the lessons there's parallels between them.
Yeah.
I've said it on the podcast before. One question that I get from people that want to check the gym out is, well, there's another gym up the street that I'm interested in checking out too. What do you think of those? Do you have any feedback on those guys? What do you think of those guys? And like, for me to take that as an opportunity to cast shade at the other team, I would assume if I were to say, oh, you know what? Well, that team sucks. And I know their head coach did this one time. Like, I would think that would probably drive people away.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
And like, not only do I have a good relationship with those guys, but if I did have some drama in my back pocket, why in the fuck would I ever air it to this person that I know nothing about?
Yeah. And they could be a completely different person now.
And what I tell people all the time when that question comes up, because it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I say, hey, those are cool guys. I got nothing but good things to say about them. The cultures of the gym are very different.
Yep.
Our vibe and their vibe is very different. I wouldn't say one is better or worse though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm biased. I think we have the best culture, but I'm not going to take that as an opportunity to say that. I'm going to say it's different cultures, different vibes. Go check those guys out. And if you like their gym better, that means they're probably a better fit for you.
Yeah.
And what we've found is by saying that and acting like that, there's nobody on the mats that
don't want to be here.
That don't want to be here.
Yeah.
There's nobody on the mats that walks through the door like when everybody's getting ready at 6 p.m. to train and you see someone walk in. I don't have any people that's like, oh, fuck, that guy's here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty big win.
I think it's awesome.
You know, like how can you have 250 teammates and there's not one when they walk in, you're like, fuck, I wish that person would have stayed home.
I don't even get it. I heard this in some conversation the other week. That's like light vibes, heavy jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And that is like this gym. Yeah. It's so hard to explain, but it's like everyone.
I think Jean-G Ribeiro.
Somebody said that somewhere. I heard on some podcast or something. And I go, oh my gosh, this is like exactly our gym, because you go in there, everyone is so cool. They're so chill. They're great. But then it's like very hard jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah. Like when we fight, we're fighting each other.
And they're very serious about it. And there's not a lot of BSing during drilling, but it's still light, right? It's still like there's no a-holes on that, right? There's just people that are serious about what they're doing, and but they're not playing grab ass, right? Yeah. And so it's really interesting.
I even look at it and think like, how the fuck did this happen? Because I've been a part of a lot of gyms and a lot of teams over the years, a lot of good gyms, a lot of good teams, but a lot of times there is some like just behind the scenes drama going on. Yeah. This guy's trying to fuck this guy's wife and it's just like, or this guy's mad that this person trained with that team and he has a beef with this guy because of that. And it's like, there's always seems to be underlying bullshit. Yep. So I was very cognizant of that when I started the team. It's like, we can't have that stuff.
Yeah. High integrity, high morals. Right. And
because dude, if you allow a cancer on your mats, just like if you allow a cancer into your business, it's going to inevitably start to affect everybody and bring the whole team down as a whole.
Yeah. You have 5,000 people. If you had 2 bad apples, it's probably not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
You have 250 people, you have 2 bad apples. That could be a big deal.
It's a big deal. Not only like, you know, I can say all of our memberships are at 250, but that's morning guys, night guys, kids, spread it out everything, the whole thing, Whereas if like,
so it's one person in a 35 person class.
That's right.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah. And if it's 35 people, now you have 18 groups that are working together.
Yep.
Wow. That really highlights the issue.
The interesting thing about this, and I don't even know if it's something I can articulate how it's happened, but I don't have to ask people to leave here. Every once in a while, we'll have a guy come in that's not, just the energy is not congruent.
Yep.
You know, like he rolls like a dick or he's too hard on our girls, things like that, right? Where it's like, bro, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
Like you have 100 pounds on her.
Yeah, it's going to get weeded out pretty quick.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
They see their own way out.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I always say culture is set at the top, but it's maintained by every single last person that invests into the culture. Bro, when someone goes hard on one of our girls, I see the young bucks like Eli and Skylar, and they're salivating over there. Yeah,
for sure.
Like, you want to go hard on Christy?
Yeah.
Yeah. As I tell people all the time, man, if you have to turn up the intensity on a small female like Christy, perfect example, right? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, she's tough and savage.
Yeah, for sure.
But I meet her at her level of toughness and savagery, if she starts to beat me when I'm matching her physicality and her strength, well, good on her.
Yeah.
Like that's the training opportunity.
And find out like how savage she wants to be that day.
Yeah, that's right.
You just come in and you just turn it up and you're not being polite about it.
To cross-face a female and smash her jaw because she starts to find, because that's what you'll see with these newer guys. It's like, typically it's an athletic white belt who doesn't have the emotional capacity to be out-grappled by a female.
Crazy.
So you start to turn it into a fight. Crazy. And it's like, man, you're missing all of these opportunities because you could meet them where they need to get met and derive a lot of skill from the roll.
I was going to say, and vice versa, because I'll roll with Rachel like on Friday nights, and her and I are two different body types.
Of course.
Right? And so I could be just this big, powerful guy smash, right? No, she's super technical. She's going to figure out a way to armbar me or choke me or whatever the case is. So then I just go to a very technical game.
Yes.
Right. And I just want to work on my technique for passing her. I could put all my weight on her and pass her, but that's not nice to her.
That's right.
It's not doing anything for me.
And this is how I think of it too, specifically when it comes to either both females and small people, right?
Yeah.
If you're a 110-pound guy that's trying to learn to be someone that can defend themselves in a real world application, I have to build you up slower than it's going to be building you up to get there. Cause you're what, 220 pounds?
240.
240. You're a big, strong dude. And for a girl to beat a man in a real violent encounter, right? Like let's say someone grabs Christy or Rachel in a parking lot and tries to sexually assault them. For a girl to really beat a man that's big and strong and violent, I think it's going to be purple belt level jiu-jitsu. Sure. Like you've been on the mats for 5, 6, 7 years and now you're there. But it's a long process because even though you may have white belt jiu-jitsu and you understand an arm bar and you understand some control positions, when you got a psychopath bashing your head off the concrete, that's a different thing. So if I know that it's a longer process to get Rachel to a self-defense, to be successful in a self-defense scenario than it is Tyler Stanaway. Because he showed up with being a junkyard dog with fight in him.
Yeah, for sure.
So that path's different and we have to respect that path. And beating up on him as that path is being walked is not the right answer. I shouldn't say beating up on. Beating up on him is necessary. But you get what I'm saying, right?
Well, I think it's also really good from like a white belt's perspective because when I roll with Rachel, if I'm not technically sound, she's topping me. Like it's like, wait, how did you do that? What's going on? And so it really actually forces you to shrink your jiu-jitsu, get very detailed. And whereas I roll with maybe some of the other white belts or blue belts or whatever, and they're more my size, I can use my strengths, which would be my weight and my pressure and my athletic ability. And I'm maybe cheating myself on some of the detailed skill sets.
And using your physicality, using your strengths, understanding when and how to use that is huge. I will never tell a big guy not to use his big guy attributes for his jiu-jitsu because it would, you've probably heard me say it before. It'd be the same thing as telling a kid with a really good gas tank, don't drag people into deep water with your athleticism. Don't make people breathe hard. Meet them at their out of shape place. Don't bring them into your elite athlete place. Like I would never say that, right? But there are times when don't focus on your strengths, focus on your weaknesses. And then when you're fighting against someone who requires your A game, then you better understand how to use your pressure and your weight and your control. You have to use them both, but there's a lot of understanding that goes into how and when and why. Harley's another good example. Have you ever rolled with that kid? I
haven't rolled with Harley, but I've been in the 101 class with him for 3 months before I came down.
So he's 20 or something. He's young, but he wrestled his whole life. And so when he showed up here, it's double leg takedowns and trying to out scramble everybody. And that's all he knew. And he was like frantic about it. But within a year, he pulled me aside the other day. He's like, "Hey coach, I'm only going to pull guard for the foreseeable future."
Nice.
He goes, "Cause I got good wrestling. I know that." And he goes, "I've always been falling back on my wrestling, but I'm struggling with people's guards, like the technical guards. So I figure maybe I should just start doing that.
Good for him.
And I'm like, dude, that's so mature.
Yeah, it's awesome.
For a 20-year-old wrestler to draw that conclusion.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for him.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
But that's where jiu-jitsu starts to like, you can start to geek out on it and become addicted to it, which you did almost instantly.
Oh,
I think it was instantly. Was it first day?
First day, 100%.
Dude, how did you articulate it to me? You said something of the line along the lines, you're like, "This is what I do now," or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like this is my thing. It was day one. Like, so it's funny.
Tell the story then.
Okay. Yeah. So I've known about jiu-jitsu, and I've known about it. I would say that I used to group it into just all MMA stuff. So I didn't really understand how it differentiated from UFC or karate or taekwondo. It's pretty ignorant, right? But I knew this thing existed out here. And then even though my stepbrother, who I've been stepbrothers for 30 years, is a purple belt up at Bellingham Jiu-Jitsu, and he's been doing it for 7 years or however long.
I met him at a tournament.
Yeah. But he did MMA as well. So I just figure it's another extension of like MMA, and these guys are boxing and fighting and kickboxing or whatever. But then, just through the normal podcast, right? Like Rogan and other people, hear about it and never Googled it, never anything. And then one of my buddies in Montana, who used to live around here, he just got his blue belt. And I shot him a message. I'm like, "Hey, Travis, that's awesome, man. I didn't know you started jiu-jitsu." And he goes, "Yeah, you should get into it with your wrestling background stuff." And we're like childhood friends. And he goes, "You'll love it, right? It's so good. I'm glad I did it. I'm supplementing with my weight training. I love it." And I go, and what I knew inherently was I had to find like a good gym, right? The gym, the culture, the coaches. I knew that just because, we grew up in a sports household. My dad was a football coach. We've been around sports. I know how important like good coaches and gyms are. He gave me 2 names. He gave me Cascade and he gave me Electro North. And he goes, if you go there, I think you'll like both the gyms. I think you and Greg are probably very aligned on values and thoughts about stuff, right? Both of them are same distance from Marysville. Give them a shot. That was like in July, almost like a year ago.
Okay.
And I'm traveling. I'm doing everything. I go, okay, well, I know if I do this, I got to figure out how to fit in my schedule. So I'm using travel as an excuse. Then I start meeting with a customer of ours, and this guy just got promoted to a black belt. I'm like, whoa, how's this guy traveling and he's a black belt? Because I know that's going to be like a lot of time. He goes, I bring my gi with me. I find places, I cross train, like you can make it work. I'm like, oh. Well, now that's an excuse gone.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like end of August. No, maybe it was October even. And so I'm like, okay, I have a bunch of travel between now and Thanksgiving. And then I'm not going to do any travel between like December 1st and the end of January. I'm going to go into one of these 2 gyms. And so I reached out to you guys. I got an email back within 24 hours from Jenny, right? Just give me the quick rundown of like how classes work and the 101 class and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in December 17th. And went in, walked in. I think you and Will were at the front actually, right before the kids class or right at the end of the kids class. You guys introduced yourself to me, said hi, just real casual. Jenny got me fit for the gi, went upstairs. Mark is our professor, which is like phenomenal. So all these boxes are being checked, right? Culture's great. Kids class going on. You're seeing how the coaches are interacting with the kids. And that's like a big tell on the culture of the gym, right?
For sure.
Like really big. And I didn't even notice it at the time, but I noticed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you go up to 101, and what's interesting, really special, I think, about our gym is you have the advanced class downstairs, you have the 101 upstairs. They're at the same time, but I can go learn the very, very basic fundamentals, right? Probably took me 3 months to know what guard is and what half guard is. And I just learned what turtle was, like that term turtle, like a month ago. I don't even know. You're just drinking through a fire hose. And after that first class, what I realized was, this is going to get really tough. It's going to be really tough because you just force yourself through the movements. I don't even know what Mark taught that day, right? But the warm-ups, the shrimping, the forward rolls is very much like a wrestling practice or a football practice. So I love that element of it. I love the drilling, and I knew that I was going to love the rolling. So I'm pumped up. I'm get out of the class. I don't roll. I just go home, and I call my stepbrother. I'm like, dude, I'm addicted, man. You're right. Like, this is gonna be awesome. And so Ty goes, yeah. I go, so when do you think I can roll? He goes, well, in our gym, we usually have people get their first stripe, which takes about 3 months. So and I go, okay, well, this class is 6 weeks long. Maybe I'll go through it twice, the curriculum. And in 3 months, I'll start to roll.
Oh, you thought you were going to put it off that long?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, great. And I didn't even notice if people had stripes or didn't have stripes. I don't know anything.
We don't do stripes.
I know for sure, right? Which I love, right?
Yeah.
It completely fits. Like I don't even know what a stripe is, and I don't know any of this stuff. So I'm like trying to figure this out. And after about 6 weeks, one day in class, Mark goes, "Hey, like you come up here, you do the drilling, then we go downstairs and you just leave." And I'm like,
Mark just completely blunt, like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing?
yeah, because what are you doing? And I go,
Can I roll?
"Yeah, can I roll?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can roll on day one if you want." I'm like, "All right, well, I guess I'll roll." So that night I rolled, and Mark was great because he, had me roll with him the first roll and stuff. And then, so that what was great about this, now I knew I could get at least 3 days a week, right? I could get 2 days, either an evening class or morning class. And then I could probably get a Friday class, but I wasn't ready for the Friday class yet.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking to myself, like, I'm not ready for that yet, and it's not even on the calendar, right? It's like, I just kind of, but then one of the guys at when we did after class one day, he basically said, "Hey, all you new white belts, why don't you guys show up on Friday and start rolling?" I was like, "All right, let's do that." And then
Who said that? Do you remember?
man, I can't remember who said it. We're in the line. I was so probably gassed, tired, right? And I was in the line, and someone just yelled over to us.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know if it was a blue belt or an upper white belt.
Sounds like something Anthony would yell. That might be an Anthony.
It probably was Anthony. Come to think of it, it's probably Anthony.
Because Anthony likes every night to fight to the
Yeah,
death.
I kind of feel like it was Anthony. It was post the tournament in Everett. And I was like, awesome. Well, these guys want the new white belts there. Let's show up, Friday. And now I try to make it every Friday I can. And then, so I got addicted to it. I started, I completely changed like how I was training outside the gym with it. And then, again, just trying to shrink down my jiu-jitsu because, what I do know is if I can get good at some basic things, then it's going to make the rest of the class fun.
Yeah.
Fun for me and fun for my partners and stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I love hearing people's just initial story of what got them in.
Yeah. And so what I did know was if I was going to walk through those doors, I knew that there's probably a 90% chance that everyone's telling me I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, what I also knew was you can't do it 2 days a week. So
You can't do it 2 days a week. I tell my standard that's been since the day I started was 3 or more.
Yep.
3 or more, I can make good progress.
Yep.
2 days a week is almost just like a maintenance phase.
Yep.
1 day a week, don't do jiu-jitsu.
You're going backwards.
What are you doing jiu-jitsu for?
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah. So I knew that coming in. And then I kept on hearing you guys say this around here, but I knew like the conditioning, the motor memory, the skill sets, all that stuff. You can't do it 3.
You can't do it.
You can't do it 2 days. We can't do it minimum 3.
And dude, when I started, I was single and 22 and I was training 7 days a week.
Say like
every single day. Just fell in love with that process.
Yeah. I mean, there are weeks when I feel like, man, I was only in 3 or 4 days. I wish I got in 5 or 6. I think about it.
You're savage.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm just like
6 days a week would put me in a wheelchair these days.
Yeah, I think I could do it if I had lower volume days on just drilling.
Oh, yep, for sure.
On days where I could go in and so I'll get to that point because right now, I don't know when I'll get to that point, but that will be a focus that I'm going to try to get to where I can get consistently. Now I'm pretty consistent at 3. I'm getting 4. Sometimes I'm sneaking a 5th, but I'm 3 or 4 all the time.
Well, and one thing that I've implemented, if you look at our schedule, there's certain hours that are just open gym.
Yes.
Right? Not open mat where it's like, hey, everybody shows up and we roll with each other. Just open gym. And it hasn't really taken off yet. It's usually just me and Jake stretching and trying to get our splits.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll find guys that are on that same path as you and be like, bro, let's just show up and do 100 arm bars each, 100 triangles each, 100 guard passes each and call it good.
Yep.
Those kind of days, especially for older athletes, are key.
Yeah.
Because rolling is grinding you to dust.
Without a doubt.
And don't get me wrong. I love that part of it. It's my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
But if you want to grow optimally, it's finding that perfect balance of intensity and then just literally building skill sets like juggling, right?
Getting that motor memory down, getting those skill sets down, those repetitions down are key, right? I look at like the rolling as being your cycles on the mat, right? So that's like your tournaments you did in wrestling. That's like your meets in wrestling, whatever it is, all these different positions. It's the off balance. It's the non-ideal positions that you're wrestling from, rolling from. The drills are where you're really honing in the skill set and then you're taking it into there. And so that open mat or the open gym times, yeah, that's definitely something I want to start to do. And I think, I'm going to move in this next phase where people can get value out of me being a partner there with them. Right.
For sure.
And so 3 months ago, they couldn't get value out of it. So now you're asking someone to do you a favor by coming in there. Now when they're like, oh, well, maybe I have a good base, can work on your base stuff. Maybe I can, you want to work on your guard and I can work on trying to pass your guard. Now I can start to provide value to some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until you can provide that value, it's hard to ask people to start doing the open mats.
Maybe I need to talk to the guys that are upstairs, because the whole reason why I had 101 and my class happening simultaneously is because at 7:00, I want those people to come downstairs and intermingle with everybody downstairs.
Yeah. I think I was just dense. Okay. I think everyone else was doing it. I was just picking up and going.
And there's still, I see plenty of people. We even have some moms up there that they're not ready to roll yet.
Yep.
So they come and they learn technique at 101, and then they come downstairs and we'll sit on the bench and talk to people and then head out a little early. Like, make it serve you where you need it to be served. But what I didn't want to happen was 101 guys are upstairs and then they come downstairs and just get in their car and leave, because that's not building the team. That's not building camaraderie.
Yeah.
Like, I want us to bow out together.
Yeah.
So you're shaking everybody's hand.
I didn't even know you guys bowed out.
That's what I'm saying. We're not,
but you have the process put in place because Mark noticed it.
Yeah.
Right. Mark was like, hey, why are you leaving? Yeah. And so it automatically checked, right? One of the other leaders of the gym noticed it and said, hey, yeah, you can stay here. Then it changed.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm not the rule. I think I was the exception to it. And probably because I overanalyzed it by asking my stepbrother what their gym did. I just assumed that was like universal.
I'll tell you what, man, some gyms, and it's really shocking to me, there's some gyms that don't want you to roll for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
I mean, think about that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think I'm doing you any type of service by precluding the most, maybe not the most advantageous part of training, but it's a critical part of training.
Huge.
It's a critical part of training, because I can show you 100 arm bars and I could impart knowledge on you to the point where if you were to instruct somebody on isolating the arm, attacking the arm, breaking the grip, we could spend hours hours and hours, and you could have an intimate understanding of all of those steps. But doing it live is a different thing, because if you have to think about it, if you have to think about it in a live roll, it's too late.
Yep.
You have to build those patterns to where they just become second nature, and those patterns get built into becoming second nature during live rolls.
Yep.
And I think, you hear gyms talk about, oh, well, it's for people's safety. Dude, I don't see.
Yeah.
I mean, people get hurt here. That's jujitsu. But I don't see it any more or less.
People get hurt golfing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
It happens everywhere.
I don't see it happening to people because they're new. Yeah. I see it happening to people just because
it's a freak accident.
That's jujitsu.
Jujitsu, yeah.
The other thing that I see a lot of gyms say is starting on your feet is where injuries happen.
Huh.
And again, Christian just broke his ankle when Bill hit him with, I think, a Sotogari or some type of throw, right?
Yeah.
It does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I don't think it's any more or less likely to happen.
I think it happens more if you don't roll from your feet than you roll from your feet. Meaning, like, if you're not rolling or if you don't start from your feet, then all of a sudden you start from your feet for some reason.
Yes, that's
right.
You're
not learning to fall.
That's right.
You're not learning the balance.
No, I think it's, and then the other side of it is even if you did come at me with some data and be like, well, look, Greg, it's, this is the percentage of people that get hurt because they start from their feet. I say, okay, so are we going to protect ourselves by making the art unrealistic?
Yeah. Because
I don't care if you want to be a competitor or if you want this for self-defense, both aspects start from our feet. And that's, dude, like when we lock horns with your decade of wrestling, I have to be very, very, very careful to get your weight where I want it.
Yep.
And I can't learn that process without doing it. There's just no way around it.
Yeah. And then also from my perspective, a lot of people will pull me in a guard, understand. You were walking around sometime in one of the classes and you're like, you weren't talking to me, you're talking to someone else. You go, hey, don't let them pull you into guard. Oh, I should probably do that.
Yeah.
So now it's like, so now it's like, how do I want to get pulled into guard, just get into a better advantageous position, right?
Yes.
If you're not starting your feet, how are you stopping that?
100%.
Yeah.
No, a lot of gyms, guys will both sit down and you travel a lot. You're going to start visiting other gyms. Just know tons of gyms have a culture where they start on their butt and they scoot towards each other. And I mean, obviously you have a high level of emotional intelligence. You're not going to be like, whoa, what the fuck is this, dude? But you'll probably be thinking it from time. I've had, I think it might have been Stanaway, but somebody that's been with me for like a long time was like, bro, you're not going to believe this. I visited this other gym. We slapped and bumped. Dude, the guy sat down.
Yeah, so nuts.
And I was like, bro, that's a lot of gyms.
Yeah, it's so nuts.
I know you think it's silly because you grew up here, but that's a lot of gyms. So just know that going into it, right? But I honestly think that culture kind of happened just out of laziness. Yeah. I think it just happened out of laziness.
And maybe small spaces.
Or small spaces.
Yeah, I wonder too, like if you don't have a huge space, I could see where you're not, or you're just a professor that's not great on their feet, right? And so you're really comfortable down there. So that's kind of where your jiu-jitsu is. You're spending a lot of time down there that maybe you just kind of create those rules without even knowing it.
Well, one thing that I tell people is it's like, even if when you slap and bump and you're on your feet, right? Even if you have nothing as far as knowledge goes, like, okay, am I going to shoot for single, an ankle pick, a double, or am I going to pull guard and try and find the hip? Like, even if you have no game plan, just feeling the movement.
Without a doubt. In the grips.
In the base. Like, I'm hard to take down.
Yeah.
And I've never done, I shouldn't say I've never done wrestling. I wrestled through middle school, right? But still, that's the reason I'm hard to take down is because I've started from my feet for the last 12 years. Every single time I slap and bump, if somebody's going to put me on the mat, they have to get me there.
Yeah.
You do that long enough, you get takedown defense. Yeah. Just naturally, not even being told like, oh, this is how you sprawl. This is how you defend the shot. None of that stuff. It just happens.
Well, even if you look at like, if I was going to look at, let's say, yourself and Daniel, right? So 2 black belts with no wrestling background basically before jiu-jitsu. Yeah. An incredible stand-up game, right? Mm-hmm. And grip game. And then you look at someone like Jordan, phenomenal wrestling background, very strong, very great stand-up game. They're even different styles.
Yeah, for sure.
So Jordan's more wrestling. You guys are more grips off grips, like that's all Daniel does. He's grip fighting you all the time, putting you in the right positions. And so even you have these 3 killers on their feet and each one of them have different styles. And so now you have to hand fight and no balance, understand what they're trying to do, trying to figure that out, that chess match. Yeah. Right. And that piece of it fascinates me because, in wrestling, there's really kind of one style. It's probably Jordan's and my style, which are kind of like, locking up and hand control and underhooks and stuff. But then we can go, to jiu-jitsu and you have the judo grips, you have the jiu-jitsu grips, you have wrestling grips. And so like to your point, you have to get really good at that because you're going to get to these upper belts and they're going to be just killers.
Well, and dude, one thing, and this is a perfect example of never really being taught this, but if I'm going against someone that I know, and bro, the second we lock horns and touch each other, I know if someone's a wrestler or not. Yeah. That is in your DNA.
The grips and balance.
Yeah, probably. I just feel it, right? Yeah. And so you notice this. One thing that I always try and do with wrestlers is isolate this, that seam on your shirt right here. Yeah. If I can isolate a shoulder, and now it not only does it manage the distance, but I can track you up and down with that. As long as I can keep my palm on your shoulder, you can't wrestle me. Yeah. And it's like years of doing that and going against wrestlers. It's like, if I can find connection to a shoulder, your wrestling's shut down.
What's really funny about that is I noticed that on Friday Night's Roll. Okay. Because you really had me like posted up like that. Right. And most of the guys that I've been rolling with, they've been grabbing my lapel or my collar up here. Right. And so then that's giving me other options.
That's giving you other options.
Yeah. It's giving me other options. And then I'm like, well, Greg had me out here.
I keep the distance from you. Yeah. And then also, if you change elevations, by the time you are trying to like get in on a double or a single, through what's the word? Proprioception, like that physical connection.
Yep.
I know where you're at.
Feel it, yeah.
I know what space you're occupying in relation to me. And I can almost always sprawl and then move to people's backs.
Yep.
Because of that management of the shoulder. And again, that was never taught to me.
Yeah. Interesting. It causes a lot of problems. For sure. Yeah.
Good. That makes me happy.
I know. I'm just saying.
Well, bro, and I do it to Jordan too.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't like, and not, it works better with a gi on because I can post on the shoulder and then I can get that grip of the seam, but the same concept, no gi too. Yeah. It's a distance management tool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I was dissecting over the weekend. I'm like, God, why was that so difficult to get to close the distance at all? Right.
Yeah.
You had me posted up. I was like, you had me posted up. I could not get out of it.
And then the other thing that it does is any grip that you can have in jiu-jitsu where you can move someone in two directions is key. Because you felt it on the one time in the corner. I used that same grip instead of pushing you away to pull you and snap you forward. Yeah. And think about that concept anywhere. If I can move you in two directions with one grip, that's huge.
Interesting.
Because it's very hard to defend
it
two directions at once.
Yeah.
You can base away. If I know you want to pull me forward, I base away.
Yeah.
If I know that you want to push me away, I can pull into you. But if you can do both with one grip, and there's different spaces, there's different applications of this in jiu-jitsu where it's like, oh, fuck. That's where it starts to become like very technical.
Yeah.
And guard passing is that way too. If I can control your knee in two directions or your hips in two directions with one grip, what it does is now I have multiple paths to where I want to get to. And defending multiple paths is exponentially more difficult than defending one path.
That makes sense. So when we get to the knees, when we're controlling the knees or the ankles, that's why
all that stuff.
That makes sense. Okay.
I love that your buddy recommended. You said Travis was his name.
Yeah.
Recommended Cascade and Electric North.
Yeah.
Because Cascade is like, they're like our sister academy.
Yeah.
You know, like every time we cross train with those guys, it's the same shit. It's awesome. It's light vibes, heavy rolls.
Yeah, they're awesome. Know? Yeah, and it's so funny because I didn't even know who Cascade was until they started to come into the Friday, or I came to the Friday night mats, and they're here.
Yeah,
yeah. And then when we had the clinic up here, a bunch of them were here.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that's cool. But those were the two gyms.
Again, another thing that I was very cognizant of when I opened up is just try and get along with all the other academies.
Yeah, we have people.
Like, why wouldn't you?
Every Friday night we have 3, 4, 5, 6 different academies. Sometimes it's smaller, but sometimes I'm going, there's guys from Further Way, there's guys from Linwood, there's guys from Charlie's, from North Sound, from Cascade. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool.
I think I did that for several reasons. First and foremost, though, more importantly than our jiu-jitsu is the jiu-jitsu culture in the area.
Yep.
I want people that when our name comes up, oh, those guys are cool.
Yeah.
Like they're fun guys. They're easy to get along with.
Yep.
And incentivize people to come out, not only to cross train with different bodies and different styles, but just to build the community up.
Yeah.
Dude, if you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're probably cut from a similar cloth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So why would I be like, fuck those guys?
Yeah.
I hate those guys.
Yeah. You know what time they're putting into it, how long they've been doing it. They're making investments, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of respect right off the bat.
And dude, like one of my biggest, I don't want to call it a problem. It's more of a like, I don't know. It's kind of a problem. It's Bill from Cascade because when he started coming and cross training with us, he was a purple belt that I could just pass his guard and armbar him.
Yeah.
And now he's a black belt that I can't pass his guard.
Yeah.
I can't armbar him. And so like he's been frustrating me because his jiu-jitsu is growing faster than mine.
Yeah.
And bro, that kind of stuff needs to happen. You need to feel that. You need to experience that.
Well, he does like 5 days a week, sometimes twice a day.
That's what I hear. He absolutely just geeks out.
It's awesome
on drilling and technique, and it's paying off.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that, and the gap has been closed between us, right? And so, like last week, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago now, I was like, dude, Bill's guard work has become very, very frustrating as a passer. And I'm a good passer. I know I'm a good passer. That's one of my strengths.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to make him play my technical guard. Let's see how he does when I turn the tables on him.
Yeah.
And his passing was sharp.
That's
he
awesome.
never got pass.
Yeah.
But what he did do is every single time that I would have like a hook or I would find like a good hip connection, he'd break that connection immediately. 100% of his focus went to my most dominant control point instantly.
Yeah.
And so he'd like snap a grip and then I'd have to regrip.
Yeah.
And then he'd shuck a leg and then I'd have to like circle it into a hook.
Yeah.
And the whole match was that.
That's awesome.
So I could never get my sweeps or my attacks going.
That's awesome.
And he could never get his pass fully going.
Yeah.
But if you look at that from a technical standpoint, I'm the one playing catch up now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my guard work going and I can't. And now you have him carrying the initiative.
Yeah, he switched it.
And bro, the initiative in jiu-jitsu, there are some people that the initiative doesn't really work on them because they're wired junkyard dog.
Yep.
You can have a knee on their face for 6 minutes or 5 minutes and 50 seconds. And if they get to their feet again, the last 10 seconds, they're going to take your head off, right? But 99% of people, if you carry the initiative long enough, it starts to diminish them.
Yeah, you want them on their heels.
Yeah, you want them on their heels. And now if they're playing catch up for the whole round, it becomes harder and harder for them to ever now
get their flow
going and take the initiative away from
without a doubt. And that comes from football. That comes from, from wrestling, you name it, right? Are you going to run your offense versus their defense, or are you going to run the offense that the defense allows you to run? Right.
And so it's a big deal. I very often correlate it to a foot race, right?
Yep.
I don't have to be like, if my mile PR is like 6:15
yep.
and yours is 6:30, you're still in good shape.
Yep.
Like you still got a good mile time. But if I make you run my race, by the end of it, you're dead.
Yep.
Because you can't quite keep up with it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
And that's the same thing you have to do in jiu-jitsu is pull ahead. And once you pull ahead, now people, just like if we're on a track running a mile, if I get 20 meters ahead of you, fuck, now what, dude?
When does that happen? So like if you thought about like from a white belt to brown, maybe a purple belt, I don't know what the range would be. When do you first know that you're doing that? And when do you start to control it?
Bro, I would say the magic of jiu-jitsu really comes together for most people either late blue, early purple.
Well, yeah, so I'm going to say probably around that transition, right?
Yeah.
You can start to adjust that.
Yes.
I was going to say it's because it's got to.
And you start to feel it. You start to see it. You start to understand it. And you can, once you can identify it, now you can manipulate it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And some guys are faster than others. Like we have a team of blue belts here that are monsters now.
Savages. Yeah.
We probably have 10 blue belts that would go into almost any other jiu-jitsu academy and be considered like a good purple belt.
Yeah. Well, they're very athletic and they're putting in a lot of cycles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, jiu-jitsu can't be measured in years. It has to be measured in hours.
Yeah, for sure.
And once you understand that, because you hear people that are like, dude, you've only been training for 3 years. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
3 years is 3 years with one person is not even comparable to 3 years with the other person.
5-6 days a week
versus 1 day a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, dude, I don't know if you've rolled with that kid that came from Cascade. He's probably 125 pounds.
No.
Little.
No.
One of the most technical games that I've come across in a long time.
Nice.
And at the end of it, I asked him, I'm like, bro, how long have you been training? I expected him to be one of those guys that started at like 5.
Yeah.
And now the reason he's a blue belt is because he's 17. He went white through green belt in kids ranks.
Yeah.
And now he's a 17-year-old blue belt in quotations, right?
That's awesome.
But that wasn't the case with him. He said, I started 2 years ago.
Oh.
And it's like, man,
that's crazy.
Sometimes jiu-jitsu shows you that we are not all created equal.
Yeah. So he's 17 now?
He's something like, he seems young. I'm not sure what he is. But he's so damn good.
That's awesome. Yeah, those guys that can pick it up, that can you can see it and apply it. Like I can't see it and apply it type guy. I'm like someone needs to drill it. I need to feel it. I need to feel the rolls. Then it'll start to come together. But there are people that can see something and they can apply that technique like right away. And we have some blue belts out there that do that. I've noticed they'll see something and they'll apply like
Hayden.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he does jiu-jitsu and he builds robots.
Is that what he does? Yeah. He sees stuff and then he looks at the details and
downloads it. I always say Hayden just downloaded it. Be careful.
Yeah. Because he has a perfect example, right? He sees something and he can apply it. And then he's starting from pretty much ground zero of just making it better.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's, folks like myself that they have to see it and they got to try it and they got to try it and then get it corrected and then try and then get corrected.
Bro,
Yeah.
I'm so far the opposite of that is that I need to a point where like a lot of people probably think that it's awkward, but me and Dan are both awkward in our own ways. So like they're for 10, we've been open almost 10 years now. For the first 5 years, me and Dan would go upstairs with nobody else and drill and drill and
Yeah.
drill and
Sorry.
drill.
Yeah.
And bro, I would like let's say I'm in north south, I'd grab a Kimura, right? And I'd just hold on to it and I'd just close my eyes and I'd just move around and feel like different connection points.
Yeah.
And like, Dan, pull your shoulder to the left. All right, pull your shoulder to the right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. That opened up space there. All right, now try and scoot your hips out and like just laying on top of him with a Kimura. Like if 99% of people saw that style of training, they'd be like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
So, I did that with Igor.
Okay.
So one of the one-on-ones, Igor goes, hey, I would just want you to work from the side. So we were working side control to the Americana, the straight arm bar, and the Kimura, just going back and forth, having me feel the little, doing the drill for a couple sessions. And on the second session, he goes, okay, now I want you to do it with your eyes closed.
Yes.
And don't go fast. Just kind of feel like each one. And I think Daniel actually came in right at the same time. But it's really interesting because it does bring a whole different element to it by taking one of your senses away.
Yes.
And filling that out. And it was nuts. It was,
dude, I think there's something to it. When I was deployed in, I think it was 2006 to Baghdad, every single deployment, you can find a group of guys that want to train.
Yeah.
Because if they're soldiers and Marines and SEALs, like they're wired for guys that like want to train, right?
You can see it at like if you're camping, you and your friends end up wrestling or something.
Yeah.
So
right?
like now you're the elite level.
So we had this house in Baghdad that had an interior room with no windows in it. So when you turn the lights off, it was
all dark,
pitch black. Couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And one of the guys, I was like a blue belt at the time, but one of the guys on the team was a brown belt.
Yep.
And so he would run the training, right? And he would say, all right, tonight's rounds are with no lights.
Yep.
And again, it forces you to understand jiu-jitsu in a different way.
And focus like you've never focused before.
Yeah.
Like first of all, jiu-jitsu. So throughout my, go back to the entrepreneur side, I am in work mode all the time. I come in here. So class starts at 6. I usually get around 5:30 and go upstairs and do some mobility. My phone's off. I don't think I pick up my phone until I get home around 8.
That's your biggest block of the day without that thing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And not only do I pick it up, I'm not even thinking what's on it.
Yeah.
Because I am doing mobility and I'm in the environment here. I'm in the culture. I'm getting ready for it. People are upstairs just talking. Then you don't even think about anything when you're on the mats. And then after the mats, all the conversations are continuing. But something that you just said kind of made me think about the culture. You're talking about blue belt, brown belt, black belt. And while I know those mean something, they really don't mean anything in a way because of your non-stripe, right?
Yes.
Culture here. Because
and I'll describe that for listeners that don't understand what I mean by that. I'll stripe kids because I think kids.
It's good for kids to have these goals and these metrics to hit towards.
Yes. Yeah. And also it's like, it can remotivate them.
They have shorter attention spans.
It just invigorates them.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you are a 30-year-old man that is here for jiu-jitsu, what I put on your waist shouldn't have any bearing on why you're here.
For sure.
I don't want to motivate you with a piece of tape. I want you to be motivated because you love this gym, you love this team, and you love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and the whole process and learning stuff. And so I think that directly translates to the culture, right? Because those blue belts out there, all the guys are talking about, all these blue belts that I roll with, they're all killers, right? And I don't care if they're a blue belt or a purple belt. When they get their purple belt, they're still killers.
It's going to be the same thing.
It doesn't matter, right? And so I think that stripes really helps take all that ego out of it. Because all they're here for is just to get into the process, the lifestyle, the team, the culture, the support system. And so that's a big thing.
That's also why I do promotions one time a year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like, hey, you got it or you didn't. No big deal either way. On Monday morning, let's train.
Yeah, but it's
instead of having it in the back of their mind, like, dude, am I going to get a blue belt?
It's
no, you didn't get it. It's all good.
It's so cool. I think that's a big reason. If you're thinking about that, the kind of that no a-hole culture, the light vibes, the hard jiu-jitsu, that's got to be a big portion of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because if people are just trying to hit that gold star, if you will, right, it changes the motivation.
Yeah. Because
now the motivation is to get to the gold star. The motivation isn't how do you find your jiu-jitsu? How do you get better at it? Not to mention, my personal opinion and with my experience in life, if it's from my time with sports or the time here now, is you could have a belt color, but if you haven't shown up consistently for 2 or 3 months, you're probably not that belt color, or you're not the belt level you were 2 or 3 months ago.
You're not. Yeah, exactly right. I'll tell you right now, there are blue belts under this roof that can tap black belts under this roof.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
But because the culture is set the way that it's set, nobody gives a shit.
No one cares.
Mark doesn't care if one of these young savage blue belts rips his arm off.
No.
In fact, he taps early and often.
Yeah.
Because he has some shoulder ailments and whatnot. Yeah. But my point is, like, there's
no ego.
There's no ego, man.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. Your jiu-jitsu is not defined by the color of dye in a piece of fabric.
Yeah, which is awesome.
It's not. It is. And bro, like our black belts here, I just said, like, there's times when our blue belts submit our black belts, but our black belts represent their black belts with their jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And
you see it in some gyms where, like, black belts don't roll with lower belts.
Yeah, not at all.
And it's like, dude, I get it. If you're old and your body is beaten up and you're like, I don't want to roll with these young savages. Like, I'll be that person one day. When I'm 65 years old, I don't want to fight a new Eli.
Yeah.
Right? That day's probably coming. But for right now, I'm going to bring it to Eli. Yeah. And he's going to catch me sooner or later. Yep. And then the tables are going to turn. The pendulum's going to swing so far that there'll be one day when every time I slap and bump with Skylar and Eli, they're going to be submitting me. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we fucking built them together.
That's the cycle. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so the interesting thing, it's one of the great things about the gym here that this is my first gym, which is amazing, right? Like, this is what I walk into. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to people, but all of the upper belts, not just the black belts, but black belts, really, they roll to where your jiu-jitsu is. Mm-hmm. And every black belt that I've rolled with, they'll roll to where is a new white belt where my jiu-jitsu is. And then they might turn on at the end, right? Because they want to get something out of it at the very end. But they're not going to do all the creative stuff that they could do, right? So they're helping me get better. They're helping me, work on my things. They could submit me half a dozen times around if they wanted to. They choose.
I don't know about that. You're hard to submit.
Well, but
I wanted that Kimura on Friday.
Yeah. Well, I had some black belts helping me with the defense on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're cheating. Going to the morning guys for their secret tips.
Yeah, for sure. But they can do that, right? But then I have seen where they come in and they might put a scoreboard up and they might say, all I'm going to do is this one submission.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And they will see how many times they can do that submission. And they're in a little bit different zone.
Yep.
And people know that they're in that zone, and it's pretty cool to watch them. And they'll say no to like white belts and blue belts because they want to wrestle with the purple belts.
Yeah, they want hard rounds.
They want hard rounds, and that's pretty neat that we have that culture here.
I think that's a good thing. You know, I think about that. There's times, and I don't have like some preconceived notion of what I'm going to do at the gym on any given day. Yeah. Like on Tuesdays, I go this, like I'm to the point now where I feel my body, I feel it out and I feel the energy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is some days when I feel like the tiredest and just like, I'm not firing on all cylinders, that's when the roles come alive for me. Because I didn't set much expectation on myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll just ride that wave.
Yeah.
Like it was a week or two ago. I remember I went home like high because I was like, I just had maybe the best night of jiu-jitsu I've ever had.
Was that when you did like 97 arm bars?
Yes.
Yeah. So
that was the night.
Yeah. You're on a mission.
Were you watching that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on a mission.
Yeah. It was one of our blue belts. And I was like, I'm submitting every time I can submit someone tonight. I'm submitting them.
I figured you might have done something like that
but I didn't go into it. Sometimes I go into it thinking that, right? But I just kind of felt the flow, the vibe. And here's the thing. And I know like for a lot of people, this might not make sense, but once you've done 50,000 arm bars. Like I find myself in the arm bar hub, stretching the arm out, not even really having an understanding of how I got there.
Huh.
It's kind of like, oh, yes, another arm bar. I got it, right?
That's crazy.
And that started to happen. And I was like, I would just roll in a scramble. And then before I know it, I'm stretching the arm. I was like, I'm just going to jump into this and have fun with it.
Yeah. I'm at the point in my life where like I will be in a side control and I will be hunting something and then I'll get the Kimura and then I will not sit on that Kimura long enough and I'll try to ride an armbar rather than trying to like break that Kimura up. So I'm at the other end where I am like my heart rate's way too high and way too overzealous.
Well, bro, there's lots of different theories and approaches on how you submit people. Like me and Dan talked about this yesterday and I actually geeked out with Dan in the manner in which I just described. I said last night, I'm like, Dan, crawl on top of me and put your mother's milk pressure on me. I want to feel it. And it was a level of pressure that I've never felt from him before because he's been honing this, right? So sometimes the right answer is to outposition people. You hear position before submission.
Yeah.
Most professors will say that and hold some truth to that. But there's other guys that just go for like reckless diving, rolling heel hooks, and now they have your foot. And it's like, you didn't really out jiu-jitsu me, but you still submitted me.
Yep.
So I can't say that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? If you dive for a heel hook and you lock my foot up and I have to tap out, all right, there's validity to that. But what I have found personally works better for most people is to outposition, lock in a submission, and then cook them. Like it's not a race to how fast I can submit them.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Sometimes you want to, like you just said, how many arm bars can I get in a round?
Yeah. It's a different scoreboard for you.
But if the end goal is a victory, a lot of times if you turn the intensity down, that victory comes a little easier.
Yeah.
Because you can lock someone up in a Kimura. And now, just like I said, start thinking about, where can I pressure?
Yeah.
Where can I put more weight on them? Where can I stifle their, like if you can put weight on anyone's diaphragm.
Yeah.
If I can put weight on your diaphragm. Now, not only am I locking your shoulder up, but I'm fatiguing you at the same time. Then the end result is the submission. Yeah. And bro, it's playing chess. That's why it's fascinating.
That's like that. I'm just getting to that point now where, I'm getting comfortable in that Kimura hub. Right. So now I'm like, okay, how do you slow it down when I get there?
Yeah.
I've got all these different, progressions in my short time here where, you get into a position and then your heart rate goes up and you're like, oh, then after, a few weeks or 3 weeks, you're in there enough times, it starts to go down.
Yes.
You're relaxed. And so now I'm getting to the point where I'm getting to enough Kimura hubs or I'm hunting enough submissions that my heart rate's dropping. Right. But now I'm at the point where if I get the Kimura, I'm still wanting to finish it right away. Yes. If I don't finish it, then I'm trying to go to something else rather than, like you said, sit, put pressure on it, move it around.
You want to hear something funny about the heart rate going up when rolls aren't going your way is you can't simulate that.
No.
And I've tried to, right? Because it's like, if Daniel passes my guard, and I've been fucking good friends with Daniel for a decade now, and we've murdered each other more times than we can count. But because our rolls are almost always neutral. Like we'll roll and it is usually 0-0, no submissions.
That's awesome.
And it's like, so if he passes my guard and gets me in side control, even to this day, those bells and whistles start to go off, right? And it's like, fuck, dude, Daniel just passed my guard. I know what that means. Yeah. A lot of times it goes from bad to worse. Yep. Fuck, dude. Okay, I have to regard right now. And there's like this element of it's a very time sensitive thing. Yeah. I can't let him start to pull ahead with that inertia or that initiative like we were talking about. And so that starts to make my heart rate go up, starts to make me fatigue faster. Yeah. So then I'm like, you know what? I need to be more comfortable in these bad positions. So now let's let Eli mount me today and work out of there.
Nice.
And when I do that, it's not the same. Yep. It's like, well, if you let someone get there, it doesn't come with the same emotional response.
Interesting.
And if it doesn't come with the same emotional response, it doesn't come with the same kind of fatigue. Yeah. So I think there is an element that you have to incorporate in your training that is somebody that can put you in positions that you have no say in. And it forces you to not only deal with the technical aspect of it, but the emotional aspect of it.
So that'd be like situationals, like more situational training, right? Because you're going to pick something and you're going to be put into it and be competition to it and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
And rotation training, bro, is like...
I love it.
Buchecha, I never even heard of rotation training until I joined his gym.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's almost nightly.
Yeah.
Because like it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you start to build a hub that you like.
Yeah.
And it's hard to deviate from that on your own accord.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're going to lean into it, right?
Like you're not probably going to pull De La Riva guard.
No. I'm not pulling any guard.
That's what I said. But now if I say rotation training, get your De La Riva hook in there and get 2 grips and see what you can do with it. It's going to force you to play a game that you might not play ever otherwise.
I was talking to my stepbrother about this weekend. It was his daughter's birthday, my niece's birthday, and we're up there and he goes, how's it going? We're talking. I go, well, I think I'm going to just keep on doing what I'm doing and just drinking through the fire hose and learning till my anniversary. Then I'm going to start pulling guard. And we're back to being day 1 white belt. Yeah. Because, because there's so much you're trying to build right now, you're just trying to learn stuff, right? Learn how people react to you, learn, when you get pulled into guard for 2 weeks, all I did was watch YouTube videos about how to pass guard. Yeah. Right? Yep. And I didn't even know if I was putting in the right thing. Is it guard? Is it half part? What do I put in there? Right. And I just watch these little YouTube videos all the time about, this is where I should put my hips. This is where I should put my hands. Then you have to try to like implement it. And then now that stuff becomes natural, but you still get pulled you still put yourself in a bad positioning because you're so new to it. Yeah. And you got to correct it. Right. And you got to get better. So okay, after a year of doing this, then I'll start pulling people into guard. So I can start, but I'm not naturally going to pull people into guard. It's not my,
of course not.
No, it's not my game. It's not the way I'm built. It's like nothing.
And I'm never going to do that in a self-defense scenario. No. But this is what I tell people too. This is an important thing for people to understand. There's a basketball court by my house, right? And every day I drive by there's usually like 15 kids out there playing basketball. Yeah. I'm never going to roll my window down and say, hey, that's not going to work in a fight. Yeah. Right? Yeah. People aren't playing basketball because they want to hone a technique that's going to work in a fight. Yep. Jiu-jitsu is the same way. Yep. There are things we do in jiu-jitsu that are simply fun. Yeah. They're good for your mobility. Yeah. They're good to
they're techniques for the sport.
They're a good workout. Yeah. They're like, I like getting underneath people and playing different guard sweeps and stuff because it's an element of jiu-jitsu that's something I can be competitive with my friends and have a good time. Yep. But I think it's also good to be honest with yourself and distinguish what aspects of what I do is self-defense fighting based and what aspect isn't. And if you can have that honest conversation with yourself, then it's cool to be able to play those games and have fun with those things.
And it makes the roles fun.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's gonna make that stuff fun. I was thinking about the story with Bill. So I've rolled with Bill twice, I think, now from Cascade. Okay. And the first time I rolled him was like 3 months ago or something. And they do a lot of wrist locks there. Yes. Right. And we don't do much wrist locking here, right?
That's because it's one of the dark arts.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a big part of their game there. And first he goes, how long have you been doing? I go like 3 months. He goes, okay. So he's really, he's a visiting team member. He sees I'm a white belt. He's asking, where my experience level is. And we go out there and like during this, I was maybe trying to pass his guard and he wrist locked me. He goes, oh man, I'm so sorry. That's something we do. I forgot you guys don't do it here. I'm like, no one's done that to me, but you can do that to me as many times as you want. And for the rest of the round, I think he did like a half a dozen or 8 times because I'm just leaving it out there, right? But it's just something different. So to your point about these cross teams, it's great when you bring people in here and that's what they do. Yeah. He was very polite about it, right? And it was just natural to him, just like grabbing a grip is, right, for you. Yeah. And it was so funny because I think for the rest of the round, he got me about 6, 7, 8 times.
Fucking wrist locks.
I know, it's so funny. I was laughing so hard afterwards. Like, well, I better get better at that.
Well, that's why I joke like wrist locks and heel hooks are specifically moves that you don't have to outposition people. Yeah. You can be in a very bad position and wrist lock someone.
Yeah. And they do a lot of competition. So, they're great those competitors. Guys are very good competitors. They do a ton of competition. So it's really big for them in their gym. And like in our gym, when I first started on here, I had a lot of blue belts that when we went to go stand up, they would hit me in that cross collar choke, right?
Oh,
Stand
yeah.
upright because you didn't know, you didn't protect your neck.
Yep.
And it was a nice, and they, you know, there's a nice way of them saying, hey, you got to protect your neck.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And so, man, in the first 2 nights rolling, I probably got on my feet, you know, just a choke from my feet 3-4 times.
Well, and the beauty of those little things like a standing cross collar choke or even a wrist lock, right? Now that's in the back of your head.
100%.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I got this thing I have to think about.
Very basic stuff, right?
know?
Very basic stuff that I was just out there, the fish out of water, and they're like, boom. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can't let them do that again.
And I know, right?
Yeah, and then boom, did it again. And then boom, did it again.
Dude, we're coming up on 2 hours already. This,
wow,
this,
that's crazy.
This zipped by. Let's do this. Let's take a quick piss break.
Yeah.
And then I want to wrap up on your fitness journey.
Yeah.
Because you're
let's do
killing it.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, like we're already at 2 hours. It always blows my mind how fast these episodes go.
Flies by.
But one thing that I think is important to talk about in relation to your just overall health journey is you've made some massive, massive changes in the last, what's it been, 8 months or 6 months or something?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I was talking to the Novaks one day and they're like, oh yeah, we know Adam. I'm like, how do you know Adam? Like, oh, through some of our professional networks. I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm not part of professional networks, but I guess I do know what it means to a certain extent. Cause I know they go to a lot of like development classes and coaching classes. And through that, they know you because your entrepreneurial spirit is always trying to hone that edge razor sharp. Right.
Yep.
And one thing I talk about both on the podcast or like with the Forge Ferocity team is like, dude, it's the 3-tiered approach to life is mind, body, and spirit. And I like to think of it as like a 3-legged stool. And if any one of those becomes broken, you will topple over.
Yep.
And it would appear to me that you put a ton of your energy into some of those other aspects of your life for a while and neglected your health.
100%.
And then you said, you know what, I'm fucking done neglecting my health.
Yep.
And now you're a savage. And I guess you could take me back to even being a young athlete. You said you got catastrophically injured and it kind of derailed the athlete inside you and now it's back.
Yeah. So we'll go back. So played sports my whole life. And in high school, it's, you know, fairly successful sports with football and wrestling, track, you know, all league stuff, all state stuff, wrestling, successful wrestling career, and then, you know, track and stuff. And then maintained it into my 20s, working out, you know, staying conditioned, eating pretty healthy. And then in my mid to late 20s, I got in a really bad ski accident. I living out in Oregon, went skiing with a buddy of mine, and my stepbrother hit a rock, broke 11 ribs. They shattered. My lung punctured.
I can't even fucking imagine that.
It's nuts. I was on the side of the mountain. I couldn't breathe. What's interesting was it was really hard for me to breathe, and I just thought I got like the wind knocked out of me. But then when I couldn't get up, I was like, okay, something's bad, right? And they got me down. I thought I had like a couple broken ribs, and they had to take me down on a toboggan. And when they did the x-rays down at the mountain, they're like, yeah, your lung punctured and it collapsed and we have to get you down into the hospital ASAP. So they rushed me down in an ambulance down to Oregon, and it's filling up with liquid. I broke my sternum, fractured my T1, and I had an AC grade 4 separation on my shoulder. So I'm in the trauma unit for 2 weeks, epidural, and they have to wait for your lung to get healthy enough before they go surgery on your ribs. If your lung doesn't get, so you have to put a tracheal into your side, right, and start pumping out your lung with blood.
Yeah.
So after about 6 days, it was the day that I was either going to surgery or I was not. And the surgery they gave me was titanium rib plates. And it was a lifesaver because it allowed me to start rehab very quickly. If they didn't, your ribs that are shattered are all splintered and they have to start to grow back. It's very painful. And so on day 6, they were able to cut me from basically my armpit to my waist, put in these titanium rib plates on.
So the titanium rib plates?
Yeah, titanium rib plates. They're like flexible rib plates that go under your ribs and allow the bones to grow in between them.
Okay, so it kind of gives like a little platform for them to adhere to.
Yep.
That's nuts.
It's nuts. And
so obviously those are still in you then.
Still in me.
So you're a fucking bionic human. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, for sure. So there was a 2 weeks in the trauma unit. Had to like not teach myself how to walk again, but the first day I couldn't walk. So that you start to take small little steps around the hospital and so forth and everything. And then it was a 6-month recovery. So respiratory therapy 3 days a week, physical therapy, I was sleeping in a recliner chair because I couldn't lay down on my back.
Because of like fluid buildup and
just the pain and like everything. And the thing was, I wasn't going to take any pain pills. I had friends of mine that got addicted on like Oxycontin and stuff, and some of them passed, and there's no way they gave me Oxycontin and just threw it away.
I've done the same thing. 2 surgeries and flushed pain meds.
Yep. And I took them back to the hospital. Like, we can't return them. You have to go back to your house and put them.
Hey, go sell them in Portland.
Yeah. Right. That was, the thing that goes to your head, but you put them in a coffee grounds, and you think about it, to get to the hospital, you're going over all the speed bumps. So every time you go over a speed bump, it's like,
yeah.
Right. And then they're telling you, we can't take them, go back. So they give you another option to take them. But I'm glad I never did it. And so it took me 6 months. So at that point, right. You lose your identity to be an athlete. You're not doing anything athletic. And then to keep my mind fresh, I'm just pouring myself into work. Right. So.
And what year was this again?
This was 2011.
Okay.
I want to say is when that happened. 2011, 2012. And so then, I would continue to lift weights and do stuff, but like recreational adult weightlifting, like you're not taking your diet serious. You're not taking your cardiovascular serious. You're just lifting weights. You're just doing whatever, 2, 3, 4 days a week. You're going to a 24-hour fitness or a Gold's Gym or whatever the case is. Right. And you're just doing, I think Mike's a great example. Like Mike's really dialed in the last 4 years. Right. But before that, super strong guy for everything. Now he's taken it to a whole nother level, and he's top 1% freak out there. Right.
Yep.
So same thing. I could go in and be strong and do this stuff, but then you travel more. So you start traveling more. So that's, more dinners out. It means, I had a really good meeting on the flight back. I think I'll have some wine, right? I'll have some gummy bears. So then it just spirals, and you don't consider your flight back on Thursday night as being like bad food. It's kind of weird. Like you justify it as just being part of your work trip.
What else am I going to do?
I deserve it, right? I'm flying. I deserve it. And then Friday happens, and maybe you do something Friday, right? You go out to dinner, and you think you're having the healthy option, but you're not. So you're just slowly slipping in to like a really unhealthy lifestyle of food, processed oils, alcohol, like everything that's like not good for your body. But then you're like, well, I'm still very productive at work. I'm still a great member of our family, our community. I still lift weights. I still do these things. So you almost are lying to yourself. You're justifying it.
Yeah.
And you realize, and so at some point, I think it was maybe coming into Thanksgiving, I'm like, man, it's out of control. Like I'm the heaviest I've been in a very long time. I just don't feel good. I'm working out, but like, I just know that I'm not being the best person I can be. Right. And jiu-jitsu was in the back of my mind on this too. So I start feeling like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to go, and I call it NSNG, no sugar, no grains path. And then obviously there's the carnivore path. And I go, I'm going to cut out what I did know about my life in my 20s and in my teens was carbohydrates are horrible for me. Mm-hmm. Like I just pack on weight with it. Right. But if you don't think about it, so let's say you have 2 glasses of wine that has, 100 grams of carbs in it. And now let's say you have some junk food with it, because now your defense mechanism has lowered, and so you'll go have a handful of crackers or chips or whatever, right? You have like 150 grams carbs on top of everything you also had in the day, just because you deserve it to decompress at the end of the day, right? For my body style, that ain't going to work. But hey, I deserve it because I'm traveling a bunch, I'm doing all this stuff, yada yada. So I knew that there's no way I was going to be able to stay heavy in jiu-jitsu, but I'm going to force myself to go to jiu-jitsu. So since that day I walked into jiu-jitsu till December 1st till now, I'm down about 80 pounds, 79 pounds, I think is when I weighed in. Okay.
Dude, it's huge.
It's crazy.
Man. Pick up 80 pounds of kettlebells and just go walk around the yard for 10 minutes.
This shirt didn't fit me. So to give you an idea, right? So like this shirt, and this shirt is borderline too big for me.
So you were north of 300.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was in the 3 teens, man. Yeah, for sure. I carried it well. Yeah. So I told myself.
Yeah.
But again, I was an athlete, right? I could golf. I traveled everywhere, like whatever. I'm just a big guy.
Well, bro, you hear Andy Frisella talk about this exact same thing.
Yeah.
Because when he was pouring all of his energy into First Form, one day he looked in the mirror and he was 350.
Yeah. You're just like, all these little things. If you don't have the discipline and you have discipline in every other area, so you don't think you're not disciplined there.
Yeah.
Right. And you feel like you're rewarding yourself. You're not like binging. You're not like do all these other things.
You're just eating shit that you earned.
You eating shit that you earned. Yeah. And it's all crap. Right.
It's nuts, man.
And so it's nuts.
Because even a highly intelligent, high functioning human being, that voice inside your head will still lie to you.
Yeah.
And convince you of that.
Yeah. But even if you go to dinner with a bunch of clients, right? So you're at dinner. Let's say you don't have wine. Let's say you just have the dinner, which is often the case because a lot of time you don't want to drink in front of clients and stuff, or you don't because of a number of reasons. But let's say you're there and you have the dinner roll. Let's say you have the appetizers, and the appetizers are like shrimp, but it's not shrimp. It's like tempura shrimp, deep fried bullshit,
yeah.
Right? And then, I'll get the salad, but I get potatoes on my steak.
Yeah.
So like if you really look at it, you ate a bunch of shit, but you told yourself that you did all the good stuff. And you don't realize if you do that 2 days a week, that's 100 days a month. That's a third of your month.
Yeah,
before you hang out on the weekend and have like your date night.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden half of your life is eating shit food, even if you ate pretty healthy the rest of the year, which was my case.
Yeah.
I would still cook steaks and I would still like, I actually on days I didn't travel and days that was just a normal like Monday or Tuesday wasn't crap food. It wasn't processed. It's actually good food, but it's everything else that adds up. Plus travel and entertainment and vacations and all that stuff. That's over half of the days a year you're eating like crap.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
And one thing I'll tell people is like in your life, when it comes to like lifting weights or doing CrossFit or jiu-jitsu, or even a lot of stuff like business related, if you are consistently stacking more wins than losses, you might not be making progress at the rate you want to, but your trajectory is a good trajectory. If you're stacking more wins than losses, other than diet. You can't, if I eat 4 shit meals, but 6 good meals out of 10,
you're screwed.
You're fucked, man.
You're fucked. But you don't think about that.
You don't think about it. I honestly think for me to be successful in diet, it has to be 100%.
100%.
Because I don't do well with cheat days or cheat meals.
Well, even if you have a cheat meal, let's just say you have a cheat meal. This is a really interesting statistic. If you have a cheat meal or a cheat day, that's 52 days a year. That's 2 months that you had shit food.
Whoa.
If you think about that, right? So
that's one cheat meal a week.
One cheat meal a week would be 2 months, basically 52 days. Yeah. Almost 2 months of your year was cheat meals.
Wow.
If you put it out that way.
I did I actually hired Novak's bodybuilding coach.
Oh, I follow that guy.
And he allowed one cheat meal a week. However, it has to be less than double the calories of.
So there's guardrails put in.
Yes, exactly.
Right? There's science behind it.
And it got to the point where it's like,
not even worth it.
Oh, I can have an extra little bit of this or that. And it's like, what I've noticed is if I go have a cheat meal and I have I'm going to have a piece of pizza tonight.
Yeah.
I wake up wanting shit food.
Yep.
Whereas like, why did I do that to myself? Because it was yummy for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times like our culture, I remember like going to birthdays and stuff. People would be like, hey, you gonna have a piece of cake? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Why, bro, you're at a birthday party. You're not. And it's like, dude, I can't, I operate better all in or all out.
100%.
And as soon as it's a birthday, so I'm going to have a piece of cake.
Well, it's a flywheel. The more that you're optimizing, anytime you get off, it's going to impact you even more.
Yes.
Right. So the better you get, the worse the fall is.
And so, bro, I haven't implemented a ton of discipline in my diet for, I don't know, I would say it's been a while, and I'm not like off the rails, but still I'm not making the progress that I want to make. And that's why it was May 13th. I said, 100% clean diet.
Yeah.
I don't miss anything anymore.
Nothing. Everything changes.
Like when we're done recording, I'm going to go eat a steak and an apple, and I'm going to be really happy about it.
Doing the same thing.
Well,
what's funny is, so when we started the steak and apples, I do steak apples and I do some cheese too. Cause I put on my, I put cheese on my eggs sometimes, but steak, fruit and cheese. Cause I'll do blueberries or an apple or whatever. But that Mother's Day, I did a barbecue and I ate good barbecue, but you know what, but because we're starting that, I was like, okay, well, I'm doing a barbecue for the mothers of the family. I'll have some barbecue chips, the Tim's barbecue chips, and I'll have this little piece of lemon meringue pie. But the next morning I could do the Monday class. I had to do the Monday evening class, did the morning class, and their class is a little bit slower paced than our class in the evenings. Man, I feel like shit.
Yeah, of course.
And I didn't like go crazy off the rails. I just had a little bit of this toxic stuff back in, and I'm in here at 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, why do I feel so bad? I'm like, oh, it's a crap I put in my body yesterday. It was nuts.
Well, dude, that's the other side of it is like, you don't realize how like overtly you are poisoning your body, because your body starts to kind of, that starts to develop into your baseline.
Yeah, you get used to it.
I'm used to this shit food. But once you remove all of that and then you introduce just a tiny bit of it back, your body's like,
Well,
no, dude.
Here's the crazy thing. So you know how you can get like the heartburn medicine or whatever, right? Whatever it is,
was that pills, Prilotec,
whatever it's called. Yeah, whatever it is, right? I used to take this stuff
preemptively.
Because I used to think that's for coffee. One of my doctors said it's probably because of coffee, because coffee is really acidic, right? I haven't taken this shit since January.
Yeah, you don't need that shit.
You don't need it.
Dude.
And I drink 2 cups of coffee every morning.
Yeah.
So like I still have my black coffee and butter, and I have that. I don't ever take, so it's all from that crap food. But I think the other thing is, so you make this decision to come in, you know, jiu-jitsu is going to be hard. So you have to clean up your diet, right? Because I knew if I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit to where I'm having fun in there. And I'm not going to have fun if I'm carrying around 80 pounds of weight, right? I still got 20, 30 more that I want to get to till I feel like probably 20 more pounds, and I'll stop for a little bit. Not stop, but I think I'll be a lot more mobile and quicker around 220. And I think I'll be dangerous around 220, but I don't know how much lighter I'll go after 20. I'm not positive what my body will do, but I'm pretty sure I can get to.
Well, you will inevitably find, for me, it's probably 193 to 196. And I know that sounds like dramatic for it to be that small of a window, but that weight is my fight weight.
Yep.
Because dude, my gas tank can go all day if I'm in that range.
Yep.
But I'm also big enough to still be strong.
Yep.
And I start to go too much bigger, I start to fatigue faster.
Yep.
I get too much smaller, I start to feel skinnier and weaker.
Yep.
And I think every body has an optimal weight.
Yep.
In which it just naturally wants to be based on what activity you want it to perform at, right? Yep. Obviously, if your activity is marathon running, it's going to be very different.
Yeah, but it's not going to be that.
Yeah, but as someone that likes grappling, I have to balance strength and endurance.
Yeah,
and then your body will kind of find that sweet spot, and it's different for everybody, because I honestly think it's just based on your lung volume and the size of your fucking heart.
Yeah, I agree. And for whatever reason, my brain's telling me I'm going to be 220, 225. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes there. But when I was in the first class, I'm like, okay, I'm glad that I decided to clean my diet in December, because at least I'm down at that point, like 8 pounds by the time I do the first class. Yeah. Right. So you're starting to feel the momentum. And then all of a sudden you're doing the first class and you maintain it. I maintained it through the holidays. So the holidays, I don't think I had anything bad except for New Year's Eve. I think I did an actual dinner New Year's Eve, but I didn't have no alcohol, no carbs. Like I was pretty dialed in. And then New Year's Eve I had some appetizers like, whatever, calamari or something. So it's bread stuff. So I just maintained on the path, right? And then you're saying, like you said, you're building these wins, and in jiu-jitsu, I changed my training outside of it, which was, if I'm going to do this, I have to get my endurance up. So how am I going to get my endurance up? I'm going to do some type of zone 2 training on days that I do jiu-jitsu. And I'm going to do some interval sprint training on days that I don't do jiu-jitsu, because I have to mimic like hard rolls.
Yeah.
And so I'll do at least 20 to 40 minutes on the rower on days that I have jiu-jitsu. So get up in the morning, get it done. And then days I don't have jiu-jitsu, I'll do my workouts. And then I'll end with like a 20 to 25 minute assault bike interval thing to try to mimic our 30 minutes of rolls.
Okay.
So the idea is build up the lung capacity. If I'm going to do this, I want to go out there and spend less time thinking about how tired I am and more time thinking I'm going to get better at jiu-jitsu.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I knew that coming into it in December. at this point, like I've definitely passed that chasm where I'm not worried about my conditioning anymore, right? I'm still on my path. I still have to do all the stuff that has to get better. It can always get better. But now that's the least of my concerns on the mats, my conditioning. Now I'm trying to figure out how to piece together my jiu-jitsu and learn and stuff. And I'm not worried about my breathing and my conditioning.
Was this something that, like, because of your lifetime of being an athlete, when you decided to dial it back in, you knew how to do it? Or did you seek outside help or coaching or stuff like that, building a new program?
Yeah. So I got super lucky growing up with some great coaches. My wrestling coaches were amazing. My football coaches were amazing. And so much of what we did was around conditioning. And so what I knew was I had to put in the work outside of the mats for the conditioning aspect. And what I also knew with wrestling was if I took 3 days off wrestling, I came back, I felt a little bit out of condition.
Yeah.
Right. You had to do something. So I knew in jiu-jitsu was going to be the same thing. So therefore, you don't have to do it. But for me to continue to progress and get better, I got to do the things off the mat that's going to make me better on the mat.
Yes.
And conditioning and weight are two things I can control. I can control my body weight and I can control my conditioning. I can't control necessarily how good I get at jiu-jitsu. I can control how much time I put in, but there's going to be a number of aspects that go into that. But I can control the amount of rolls I get in. So like you made a point one time, you go, when you guys roll here it was after class one day, you go, roll every round. Don't roll one round and sit out. You only get 4 rounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that makes sense. He goes, Mark, roll. I haven't seen Mark take a roll off in 10 years or something. You said on there, right?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, why do I take a round off? It's only 28 minutes.
Well, and plus, if you're feeling super fatigued and you're like, man, I want to take a round off, maybe you grab a small white belt and play defense for 6 minutes or whatever. You know?
Or sometimes you have to take a leak. You come back in and you grab someone and go, hey, you want to do a half roll?
Yeah.
And you only got 3 minutes. We do this all the time because people are just getting paired up and sometimes they have an odd number of people and whatever. And then we get half rolls in all the time just to get the most out of it. Right. So so I knew I had to do that. Right. So the conditioning was a big deal for me because I was always a conditioned athlete as a kid and through high school. And I knew that, the other thing too is walking into this gym. You always say this, it's not like indicative of the normal population. Everybody's pretty in shape.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're in the professional world, often a lot of people are not in pretty good shape. So you can lie to yourself. Right. And here you can't lie to yourself. You're like, wow, these guys are in like really good shape. And so I knew that if I'm going to do this, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my teammates' time. And these are all things I can do. I can get up half an hour earlier and get on that bike. I can control what goes in my mouth. I can do this stuff. So when I roll with people up there, and the other thing that's really beneficial to me is right when I joined, I think you guys went to it in Super Bowl weekend. So it was that February to the Everett Community College for the tournament there.
Yeah.
I think it was Super Bowl weekend.
I don't know when Super Bowl is.
Yeah. I think it was Super Bowl. Well, I think it was, and I don't watch the Super Bowl. I'm a huge football guy. I don't watch Super Bowl. I don't even watch pro sports, but it was really beneficial because I saw a bunch of people from the gym there that were competing. There's
that's right.
Like
that's where I met your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And 7 or 8, 9 people plus, everyone's so inviting.
Yeah.
Right. Like Will came up and said hi to me and I think Daniel was there and you were there. Like you got to see a lot of people. And I've only been at the gym for a month, 2 months. Right. So all these, so I just kind of created this plan, and the plan was, again, I don't know how my weights were going to go because I didn't know how my body was going to react to being sore and stuff. But what I did know was I could condition, and zone 2 is not hard. So I know I could do zone 2 on days I did jiu-jitsu, and on days I didn't, I could get more high intensity sprinting in. And I knew that it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get into condition. So in 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to be in decent condition and then continue to build on top of that.
Yeah.
So just come embrace it. But if you don't do it, then you're kind of stuck. And so now everything I do is mapped out around that. Everything I do is that I want to get better at being more mobile. So I do mobility every day because I'm not a mobile person. I'm getting more mobile as I'm losing weight, right? Yep. But increase the mobility, A for performance, B for recovery, or vice versa. Control my endurance. Like to do 30, 40 minutes on the zone 2 on a road bike is a good way to kind of mimic.
What's the heart rate at zone 2?
Maybe like 130,
okay,
125, 130, but then up at the bike. So I used to wear my Whoop app in here during rolls, and it got to about 160.
Okay.
I'd say 156, 160. On the bike, when I do the interval sprints, 156, 160.
Got it.
So therefore, I'm getting a bunch of high intensity rounds and then a bunch of zone 2, where you're just getting used to like that pace.
Yeah.
That's going out there. So
You ever use the stair mill upstairs?
I haven't, but
If you want to,
I will.
bro, when I first bought that thing,
Yeah.
I could spike my heart rate into the 180s,
That's crazy.
which is above my max heart rate, right?
That's crazy.
I was like, dude, I'm going to fucking kill myself on this thing. But now I can't really get above 160 on it. I'll push myself
That's awesome.
and my body's just adapted to it.
That's
That thing's gnarly.
That's what started happening with the rolls, is I was being in the upper 160s, and then it was like 140s. Then finally, it's funny. I don't even use the whoop anymore. So I used the whoop when I was convincing myself that I was doing hard work pre jiu-jitsu. Now I know I do hard work.
Yeah.
So why do I need the whoop app? I don't need it.
Bro, you know why I got rid of the whoop? Started getting a fucking like ringworm rash
Oh, crazy.
underneath the strap.
Yeah, I started getting one of those too. Yeah.
You wear it in the shower, you wear it when you're training, you wear it at the gym. It's like, when is this thing ever off your skin?
Yeah, and I had it on, and it nicked someone once in here. Like, didn't nick him, like didn't drop. But I was like, why do I have this on?
Yeah.
Like, my biggest activity level, my most intense one is going to be rolling.
Bro, you know what's funny is I fucking I had the whoop for maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I just can't have this thing on me all the time. So then I just took it off and put it in my drawer and never thought of it again until literally like a month ago.
Yeah.
Your Whoop automatic subscription for $320 was just processed. And I was like, motherfucker, right? And I was like, I didn't realize. And again, if you read all the small print.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know these motherfuckers won't refund my money. So I'm just going to let them know to cancel. And I wrote them and I said, hey, you know, I enjoyed your product for a little while, but I realized it's just not really something I incorporate in my training. And so can you cancel my membership so next year it doesn't get auto drafted? And they wrote me back and refunded the money too.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh, that's a cool company.
That's incredible.
I didn't even ask for a refund because I didn't expect, it's my bad if I didn't read the contract well enough.
Yep.
Right. And no, they refunded it and said, okay, we're sorry for blah, blah, blah. And you know,
that's incredible.
And the reason I like to tell that story is because that's doing the right thing.
That's doing the right thing.
You know?
And it's a good experience for everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, it's that, you know, one bad, you know, recommendation can just kill you. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. And, you know, now I'm like, everything is, it's more purposeful now because, you know, jiu-jitsu is such a big part of just my life now. Right. And so the mobility, the training, the figuring out how to get the classes in, I'm doing, you know, so for me, the other thing too, I think for busy professionals out there, for people that listen to the podcast, there's definitely a way to figure it out. Right. And so,
and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because it's like you went from, I mean, every hour of the day seems like is pre-scheduled for you.
All the time.
You're running a fucking successful business. You're putting out fires. You're doing a million
there's always
things.
more stuff to do.
And then you said, you know what? I'm still going to be very intentional about my jiu-jitsu, and I have to make it here 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And you're like, and you've been hitting it 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And bro, nobody hits it 5 days a week.
Yeah. Because you can do it because it's really good for you, for a professional. It gets your mind out of the business. When you come back, you're more productive. So that's number one. Right. And I can go work out I have a gym in my garage. I can work out my gym in my garage. I can go for a walk. I can run stairs, whatever. I have my phone on me.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to check stuff. I'm going to take phone calls. I'm going to do whatever. On the mats, you do not have your phone connected.
Yeah.
It's very good. The business has accelerated the fastest it's ever accelerated in the last 6 or 7 months.
Boom.
So think about that, right?
You hear that? Yeah.
So it's accelerated, right? Which is huge. Number two is you can find a way to make it work, right? So like with our gym, we have morning classes, we have evening classes, we have Saturday classes, there's Sunday classes, there's open mat, there's cross gym rolls. Like the only way it won't work is if you find an excuse for it not to work.
Yep.
We have one-on-ones, right? So I work with Igor. There's a couple other guys that do one-on-ones as well. I can work with Igor. He supplements my weekly schedule.
Yep.
And which is awesome for the busy person out there that wants to get in that 4th or 5th class in the week. It's great for me because it shrinks my jiu-jitsu down and looks like I was giving this example. We could do arm bars in a class, and you're a world-class arm bar practitioner. So we're getting taught by one of the best. When myself and someone like Jay, who's a savage white belt, him and I go do arm bars, it's 2 white belts. honing in their armbar
Yes.
skill,
Yep.
right? And then the coaches come around and they can correct it, but just numbers, right? 3 coaches, 40 people on the mats.
Yeah.
You go with Igor, you get an hour with him. He helps you with the small little details and errors that you're making on your armbar.
And the invisible
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And so right then, that just really accelerates everything we're doing. And so I think as a new white belt is important. I think as anyone that's in any of the other belts, it could be really valuable to do the one-on-ones because you're already investing your time into jiu-jitsu. By investing more time,
Yes.
you get very, very dialed in on a one-on-one. It's just going to help you accelerate what you're already doing.
Well, and bro, I like that you said that, because one thing that I say about private lessons all the time is I'm not interested in teaching privates to people.
Yeah.
Because I've had people reach out to me that are like, successful business guys, or their schedule isn't conducive to being a team member. So they just want some private jiu-jitsu on the side. That's not a path to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But if you are a team member that is already invested in the team and believes in the team, and you want to get a little better, you want to supplement it, and you want to have some extra time on the mats, that's where I think one-on-ones and privates become very applicable.
Absolutely.
Which is exactly what you're doing, right?
Yep.
But imagine if all you were doing is working with Igor, none of it would come together.
Nothing.
You know?
Yeah, nothing would come together. And it's also a cycle, right? Because I can go a whole week now. I can take what he has helped me with and try to implement it into the roles. And then the roles will expose me on what I think maybe I was working on, which didn't accelerate nearly as fast as I want to, and bring it back.
Yeah.
And it's like this. So like we're going to meet tomorrow, and I'm very focused on, hey, I want to just tomorrow focus on some guard passing and just on the side control stuff. I don't even want to really work on the throws. I want to take that out of our training lesson, just because I feel like it's too much in an hour.
Yeah.
And I just want to focus on this piece because there's so much to do there. We can spend the whole time on the little details on the guard passing, different types of guard passing.
Bro, we could talk about guard passing for the next 6 months.
Yeah, for sure.
I love guard passing.
Yeah. And so that, to me, it's a big deal. And I think if you're committed to it, if you're a busy, parent, or a busy person, busy student, you're busy, professional, whatever it is, supplementing that in is well worth it. Whatever that cadence is, even if it's once a month, right? Even if it's
of course
every week. I'm just doing it every week because for me, it guarantees that I'm going to get that extra day in. And then what it doesn't come with is the rolling.
Yes.
So as an older jiu-jitsu practitioner, I'm not going to get another half an hour of rolling. That's hard to recover sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it allows you also to have a very good understanding of how you need to plug this into your weekly schedule.
Yep.
Right. Because like the rolling comes with a little bit of unknowns.
100%.
Because you don't know how you're going to feel the next day.
Yeah.
Based on who you lock horns with.
Yep. And the other thing I mentioned is you and Daniel go up there and you guys will sit in positions and figure stuff out. What's great about the one-on-one is I can do the same thing. I'm not doing it from the same perspective or knowledge or experience that you and Daniel have, right? But Igor can slow me down and go, do you feel this?
Yep.
And I'm like, wow. So that being able to do that at a white belt level is phenomenal, right? And like, oh, do you see how that's a little bit different there and a little bit different? I'm not doing that on my drilling class out there.
That's right.
It's not the same thing.
Yep.
So there's a massive benefit to it. And, I'm really glad that you guys offer it here. I know the Parkers do it as well.
Yep.
Like, I've ran into some of their classes. Igor does it. I know Potts was working with Igor this week or last week too. And I think it's just great, right? So for, my big thing out there for folks is if they're in it or they're getting into it, adding this into some type of cadence weekly or monthly is a game changer, right? It's a game changer, especially if you're passionate about this and you're trying to get better. I don't know of any other way to supplement everything you're else doing rather than getting some one-on-one sprinkled in with all the team classes.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. Well, fuck, bro. We're at 2.5 hours.
Crazy.
We got to wrap it up.
Yep.
You got anything you want to wrap it up with?
No, man, I'm just really grateful and happy to be part of the team. Team's awesome. I love everyone here. Culture's great. And thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Like I say, like there's some guys and gals when they walk through the door, they're an instant value add, and all of our teammates are value adds, but there's some Sometimes people walk through that just bring a level of knowledge or experience or discipline or motivation, and the team feels it, and they felt it from you from day one. So we're grateful you're fucking here, man. And I have no doubt I'll be tying a black belt around your waist one day.
Sounds good.
And that's going to be happening. You know what I'm saying? So
all right.
Thank you. I will add, is it cool if I add your Instagram in the show notes?
Yeah.
Because like every episode, someone's going to hear something you said, and it's going to motivate them, and they're going to be like, bro, I need to ask you about this or that.
Yeah. So. They can reach out, and then we can connect, if they want to, outside of link or Instagram, will connect with LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there in the
send me your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the show notes too then.
And help any way I can on that aspect.
All right, cool, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.